The new British Superbike season started with a bang at Brands Hatch. A massive crash at the back of the grid meant race one of the season ground to a halt after just 10 seconds. Well, we were expecting an exciting year in British Superbike 2000, but what a way to start the year.
It is going to be an awesome season this year, providing some of the most exciting and closest racing on the box.
So, race one restart is about to get underway. They're under starters' orders, they're looking at the lights now. First race of the British Superbike season is about to get underway. Can Hizzy convert that pole position? No, he can't, because Chris Stalker is away straight away already. Stalker then goes into the first turn at Paddock Hill. Number 2, Chris Stalker on the Suzuki. Yep, there he is. Straight down in the dip. Up towards Dewey's corner now. It is Walker that leads.
Not a good start from Mackenzie. Moves onto the front row though. He went backwards. He's about 8th now.
Yeah, it is Hodgson, his teammate, has taken over there in 4th place. It is Walker that leads on 2. Then it looks like John Reynolds. Yes, it is John Reynolds. Little Johnny's there. Then number 8, that's Steve Hislop on the Virgin Mobile Yamaha. Rob Mack's going to be hanging over the wall. Then it's 4. That is Hodgson, of course. And right behind him, number 5. Another swappy from the winter shenanigans. It is Hayden himself. Look at Hayden. There's Hayden looking at the inside of Hodgson. The two of them battling away on Ducatis. One on the Rev A Red Bull one on the INS one. End of lap one then. Chris Walker has eased away at the front from the Rev A Red Bull Ducati of number 3, John Reynolds, followed by the pole sitter, Steve Hislop. Well, this is where the punishment is coming, because the tyres are absolutely getting used very, very hard indeed.
Big look over his shoulder from John Reynolds as he came down the hill from Dewitt's last
Well,
time
this
round.
is what he's looking at, isn't he? Right back towards the back markers, we have Stalker leading Hislop, leading JR. These three, they're out on their own. These will be the podium order, provided they all finish.
Absolutely, a battle going on for 4th and a lonely Mackenzie in 6th. And again, Hislop traps the Suzuki. Doesn't try a move this time. Has a look at the inside. I don't think that was serious. There's all the yellow platers.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was trying to get to earlier on. This lot have got to cut their way through the back markers, and they're in their own battle, of course. So.
For their own points and their own championship.
Big problem, yes. There's a Privateers Championship as well. For those of you that aren't familiar with British Superbike rules, the yellow plate bikes are in their own battle for their own championship, their own pot, and their own place on the podium at the end of this race.
And when you're a privateer struggling to put diesel in the van to go home, you don't actually care that Chris Walker's coming up behind you if you can get another couple of places.
Yeah, get in the way of him though, and you might
you will,
care,
that is
sure.
Very true.
Chris Walker still leading this first race in the British Superbike race. Championship, I should say. Look at Walker making that thing shake its head.
This is going to be
nice
tricky.
And smooth at Paddock, it certainly is. Round the outside then, Chris?
Happy traffic.
Oh, we'll do one. There's one round the outside.
Inside the other one on the apex. Oh, perfect.
Out into the sand bit possibly for you. So Colin Hipwell there on bike number 88.
The Suzuki man. Reynolds is caught behind him now.
Oh, but look at Reynolds. I don't forget. I tell you what, Walker is still under pressure. John Reynolds has got this sorted out. He's right there with Walker. Reynolds looks to me like the man with the pace for this job. Hislop has dropped off. Those back markers are
John.
Really ruined him. John was out of the saddle. So was Chris Walker. Up towards Joyce. More back markers. There is your 3rd place man.
If he's got tyre left to get back up to them, I will be very surprised.
I'll tell you what, the circuit commentator is going potty. Fred Clark is off his chair yet again, and I can see why. Because here he goes. He's through. John Reynolds has got Walker. Well, 27 odd laps of this race. Chris Walker has led, and now John Reynolds has taken it from him. Chris Walker will be kicking himself about this. Reynolds crosses the line. John Reynolds takes the win. What a superbly judged moment in motorcycling. Steve Hislop looked to the back of the grid for the green flag. Down come the visors on the helmets, into gear then, and we're about to get underway. There's John Reynolds behind the red flag. He won race 1 today. That is Neil Mackenzie, 3 times British champion, looking for his 4th if he can. He took a year off last year. Now the lights go red and green straight away, and up in the air there, Hislop gets a flying start, but again it is Stalker Walker that goes away at the front. Chris Walker on the National Tyre Suzuki gets underway, as he did in race 1, right out the front, and John Reynolds is through straight away in the 2nd place. That bodes badly, and on the outside, the Scotsman, number 8, that is, on the Virgin Mobile Yamaha, Steve Poleman Hislop, who's there in 3rd place now. That looks like an INS Ducati there in 4th as well.
Keith. Hodgson
so
in
Neil
4th.
Hodgson. Where is Hayden? Because Hayden was going good in race 1 too on the other Rev A Red Bull. bike.
I've got him about sixth, Hayden. Just like in race 1, Walker leads. Reynolds, Hislop, and Hodgson on a wide line there into clearways.
Well, remember, Chris Walker is going to... Oh, Mackenzie! That is Mackenzie on the INS Ducati. Neil Hodgson's teammate, Neil Mackenzie, then the ex-3 times British champion, is dumped out of it, the ex-Grand Prix man. Oh, another accident there as well, which got him going down like 9 pins everywhere at the moment. Stalker is in trouble as Hislop puts him under unrelenting pressure.
Look at the contrast in styles, isn't it wonderful?
They're both out of control, Julian.
Oh, take that this time. Izzy goes the right way this time.
And almost Stalker nearly rammed Izzy up the back there as well in a straight line. I could feel people running for cover in pit lane.
Yes, team managers, marshals, clerk of the course, yes, everybody.
Raced his game for it. You can tell he's trying real hard. He's making the rear end of the Yamaha start to spin and sit down out of Clearways corner, the fastest corner, as we come into the back markers now. 29, well, that is Jim Hodgson on the Len Anderson Racing Kawasaki. And look at how many they've got to cut through. Well, Hodgson might be, he could actually mug Izzy here. If Izzy blinks for a second or backs the throttle off for even lesser time, he is going to be mugged by Hayden. Hayden will jump on him from a great height.
So that you're saying that maybe it's not the advantage being first, or you'd still rather be first?
Well, it's a bit of a luck of the draw when you've got 5 back markers to get through. It's all right when you've got 1, you just barge them out the way. But when you've got 5, it's a bit of a sequence, isn't it? A bit like slalom skiing, really, without sticks.
And look at Hayden, he's right in the wheel trap for the leader, Hislop.
Yeah,
that's a back markers. Whoa, bunches of back markers.
Izzy looks like he's lining himself up to go around the outside of them, which is probably not the best way to go, but he's up the inside now, and so's Hayden up the inside as well. So Hayden does exactly what I thought he might do. Izzy might have hesitated very slightly or not been on the gas. Absolute Plater's out. That's Plater. Goddard's teammate is out now. Well, maybe Izzy hesitated for a second there, and Hayden, look at that, and he's put one between them as well. So Hayden, not only did he outthink Izzy, he just had the back markers fall perfectly for him. Hayden is getting under him. Look at this, he's absolutely shoving them out of the way. Hayden got them falling just right from him. It's like poker. If the cards don't fall dead right, you've had it. You're out of here. You've lost all your money, or you win big loads. And Hayden is right on now for winning the second race today. Izzy has got to try and recover and then get past Hayden. Oh, is that down? Who is that down in the middle of the turn? Well,
that's John Crockford who won
the privateer.
He won the first one, yeah.
First privateer race he won. The first yellow plate it was, so Crockford is down. He was the fastest privateer in qualifying. And he's out now, but over the line goes Hayden to take the win. Hislop in second place. We wait for a while to see who is going to be third. Oh dear me, it was Hodgson who goes onto the podium. Girlfriend Catherine is here as well, so he'll go back to the Isle of Man happy, but not as happy as James Hayden will go back to Berkhamsted. He's doing us a noddy. Well, I think you can say he's fairly pumped up about that, Jules.
This afternoon I thought, well, it's a long race, 28 laps, take a bit more time. Just try and, thank you. Just try and, just work your way, just get smooth. And I felt if I could get out in front, I could just use the whole circuit. And also we were lapping people very early, so I knew if I was in front, I could use those to my advantage, and felt we did.
There was a huge turnout of Brands Hatch, including the odd celebrity. Bob Geldof was on hand to make race 2's prize presentation.
So Brands Hatch has set the scene nicely for our year ahead. But here at Donington Park on the first day, we've seen our own fast and furious qualifying. Let's take a look.
Third place on the grid for the GSE Ducati of Neil Hodgson, one of the only 2 riders to improve his time in yesterday afternoon's session and looking very focused for this season's championship. John Reynolds, also on Ducati's second on the grid, and feeling very confident following his Brands Hatch victory. John has worked hard during qualifying on his machine setup for the race and is a master tactician. Pole position man Steve Hislop, riding for Yamaha, shaved 0.2 of a second off the World Championship lap record for Superbikes with an incredible lap of 1 minute 33.25 seconds. It would be fair to say that Steve has dominated qualifying.
That indeed was a blistering pole position for Steve Hislop. That's not so far short of what the Grand Prix bikes were doing here just 2 or 3 years ago. Hayden, Mackenzie, Plater and Crawford on the second row, Goddard on the other Kawasaki heads row 3, and the 2 Yamaha teammates Rutter and Paul Young on row 4. And the number 8 Yamaha, Steve Hislop on pole position there. Alongside him, Reynolds. Then it's Neil Hodgson, number 4, and Chris Walker completing the front row on the Suzuki. And it is indeed Chris Walker, the number 2 Suzuki rider, who gets the drop. We're looking backwards now from Steve Hislop. The number 6 there, Sean Emmett. There's Neil Hodgson, number 4, on the INS Ducati. Reynolds also and Hayden got great starts, but Chris Walker, the stalker as they call him, leads. Away they go down towards the old hairpin, into the right-hander. Right on his tail, though, is Steve Hislop, who was so unbelievably quick round here in practice. Hislop has really set the MB4U.com British Superbike Championship for the year 2000 alight, and he's doing it again. Through on the inside of Chris Walker goes Steve Hislop. He is tucked in. I've never seen Hislop looking fitter and more focused, and that incredibly sharp haircut makes him look pretty mean.
On board now with Steve Hislop looking backwards, and you see Chris Walker coming into view. That's because Hislop is ahead. Now Hislop needs to be ahead of the gaggle behind him. Hislop likes to ride, he likes to lead from the front. He's at his best when he doesn't have to brush shoulders with anybody. So this is an ideal position for Steve Hislop at the start of this race.
Hislop, now 37 years of age, the TT veteran Hislop, but he's having something of a renaissance now and going really well at the Melbourne Loop. But Walker's still in second place. Number 3 on the Ducati, John Reynolds, championship leader so far in the very early stages. And let me tell you, after this whole series is over, they will have raced 850 miles of very hectic pace, and there will emerge a champion. Reynolds wants to be champion. He won it in 1992. He would love to do it again. On the right there, number 5, James Hayden, going inside and making a super passing move on Neil Hodgson. Neil Hodgson, another one of the front row men, but it's Hayden moving through. Ducati versus Ducati. Away they go down towards the Melbourne Loop. Hodgson on the right-hand side of your picture. Hayden scythes across the front. Is he going to go wide? Can Neil Hodgson get the drive out of there, Roger?
Now back at the front, and it's Steve Hislop on bike number 8, from Walker getting it sideways there into Fogarty's on bike number 2, and in close proximity now is JR, John Reynolds on bike number 3, closely followed by Hodgson on number 4.
The number 3 Ducati rider, look at the rear end of Chris Walker, backing the bike in. He went a little bit wide there because he was going down the gearbox, too much rear brake. The rear end broke traction, but that's the way Chris prefers to ride. New race leader, John Reynolds, number 3. Both local men, both Reynolds and Walker, live just up the road in Nottingham. Family man Reynolds knows his way around here like his own back garden. He is going well now, Reynolds, but look again at Hodgson on the inside. Up to third goes Neil Hodgson on the orange Ducati. Yes, he's got the better of Steve Hislop, and slotting in now behind Chris Walker as they head off down Craner Curves.
On board now with Steve Hislop looking backwards. Now Hislop must have made some sort of mistake here. You can see Walker coming alongside him. Now you can see the acceleration of John Reynolds, and John Reynolds on bike 3 goes past. Now this is looking backwards again from Hislop, and Hodgson up the inside, so that made Hodgson up into third place, and you can see now from the pictures that Reynolds is slightly stretching an advantage.
A yellow flag is out. There's a rider somewhere with a problem. The yellow flag is out. That means ride with caution, and you must not overtake under a yellow flag. Again, that rear wheel action from Chris Walker. Down into the Melbourne hairpin. The Suzuki sliding all over the track with the rear end. But why was the flag? That's why the flag was out. Hislop, number 8, Steve Hislop, has parked the Yamaha. He's shaking his head. We're puzzled. He clearly is puzzled. Roger, something mechanical?
Must be something mechanical. There was no crash damage there to the bike, and none to Steve Hislop either. But look at Hodgson. Hodgson's the man on the move. Not only has he set the fastest lap of the race so far, he's not settled for third at all. He's past Walker now. The back ends of those bikes squirming as they go right-handed through Craner Curves. 120 miles an hour through there before going left-handed. Up with the engine revs at 130 miles an hour, back 2 gears for the old hairpin. 90 miles an hour through there. Hodgson now has to work really hard to catch John Reynolds.
Mackenzie then up into 5th place. His teammate number 4 Neil Hodgson is well ahead of him, but Mackenzie now having a good ride, and the more and more track miles he gets under his belt on the Ducati, the more settled Neil Mackenzie will become on the machine.
And there's Hodgson just come through the picture. Can Walker catch Hodgson?
Number 2, Chris Walker, is indeed the crowd's favourite. He has finished 3 times in this championship, but he will not finish this race. There is a lot of smoke. You can see it yourself. Walker has blown the Suzuki, and with it, he has blown any chance of lifting points in round 3 here at Donington Park, because that bike is going nowhere. And he better get off the racing line, because almost certainly it'll be throwing oil. Well done, Chris. Park it on the grass. Number 77, Brent Sampson, one of the tail-enders about to be lapped, but Brent Sampson, the man from Plymouth, a very able privateer performer, and he goes well in this series.
Of course, the privateers within this race are signified by a yellow front number plate, so you can see that we've got 2 yellow front number plates there. Hodgson just about to exit the Melbourne Loop and chase after this man, John Reynolds, so the yellow number plate signifies a privateer.
Into Goddard's, hard on the front brake going in, down 3 gears on the Ducati. He'll boom out towards the line, a huge wheelie. The checkered flag is out, and after 19 laps of Donington Park, round 3 goes to number 3, John Reynolds. And John has every reason to be delighted, because that is the team's 3rd and his 2nd win of the new season, and there's the confirmation. Top 4 places taken by Ducati, Hodgson, Hayden and Mackenzie filling the other 3 slots. Top privateer John Crockford on the Suzuki. 2 races on each of the events, of course, during the Superbike Championship in the year 2000. Each race will yield 25 points, so potentially 50 points up for grabs. And of course, Chris Walker yielded 0, but he's going for it this time. Walker again in front on the number 2 Suzuki. Similarly, number 8 Steve Hislop, the pole position man, yielded 0. So it's John Reynolds, the number 3 Ducati, who got the big points and the big money in round 3. This is round 4, 19 laps, 47.5 miles. Away they go again, and it's Chris Walker, number 2. Right with him, though, has gone Hodgson on the orange Ducati. Number 4, the INS GSE Ducati of Neil Hodgson, the young lad from Burnley, 25 years of age, who is now based in the Isle of Man. He is sitting in 2nd place, anxious, in fact determined to go one better this time. It's Hislop on the red Yamaha, the number 8 Yamaha in 3rd. But in the sunshine here, it's Chris Walker leading. John Reynolds on the number 3 Ducati in 4th place. With him his teammate, number 5 in 5th, James Hayden. Walker leads as they flick it through the S's. Walker with Hodgson oh so close.
Well, Chris Walker there made a mistake. He went very wide on the entry point of the S's, and I suspect we'll see Hodgson pass Walker down here into the Melbourne Loop. And as I speak, we do, and almost Hislop got past then on bike number 8. So they're all bunching up nicely now at the front. And the good news is that the top 5 guys were the top 5 in qualifying, and any one of these could win.
Well, the result a year ago here at Donington Park was a win for Reynolds. Hayden was 2nd on that occasion. Hodgson was 3rd. Walker was 4th. And of course, Chris Walker, 3 times he's been 2nd in this championship. And really that elusive victory in the championship must be his this year. That's the way he'll be thinking. He had the opportunity to go to World Superbike, he turned it down, he accepted the Suzuki deal, and he's sitting in 2nd place at the moment. But Neil Hodgson, a man with vast World Superbike and Grand Prix experience at the tender age, and another fastest lap for Neil Hodgson, so he's on the charge, settled in, 2nd year on the Ducati for Hodgson. He knows his way around Donington. He won 125 championship races here, had a very good Grand Prix performance here, and he knows the track intimately.
The formula for these Superbikes is that these bikes, for all intents and purposes, are road-going bikes that you can buy from the dealer's showroom. They have hotted-up parts in them, kits, wheels are changed, tyres are changed, but the configuration of these bikes are that you can buy in the showroom. The manufacturers see this as a very, very important championship, and thus the popularity is there. The depth of field is immense. We've got 12 factory bikes out on the grid, and the level of performance from these bikes is World Superbike level. In fact, the bike leading the race, bike number 4 of Neil Hodgson's, is the same bike that Fogarty won the World Championship on last year.
And that's underlined by the fact that Steve Hislop's pole position time qualifying round here. Unbelievably quick, 1:33.25. And if I remind you that Kevin Schwantz's Grand Prix lap record round here only fell in 1997 to Michael Doohan. Doohan went round in the 32s, but prior to that, Schwantz was circulating no faster than Steve Hislop did pole position. And the man who's going really quick is Walker, through on the inside of Hodgson now. He is determined to get that Suzuki in front and stay there. Hodgson, though, riding with all the maturity of a seasoned campaigner, which of course he is. He rides motocross to keep fit in the winter with his resident in the Isle of Man, fellow resident Steve Hislop. They go out on motocross bikes. The factory bosses aren't too keen about that in case they hurt themselves, but it certainly is a way of staying fit. John Reynolds, the man in third place, number 3, an ex-motocross rider, a very good factory Kawasaki motocross rider. Oh, Chris Walker, a foot out of line on the Suzuki, in on the back brake, but he loves riding it that way. Maybe hard on the machinery, maybe hard on the tyres, but the riders behind will have seen that. Fourth place, James Hayden, number 5, has made a move on Neil Hodgson and has got his Ducati up into third place. So it's Suzuki leading, Ducati in second, Ducati in third, Ducati in fourth, and then the Yamaha of Steve Hislop in fifth. There's the man from Berkhamsted, James Hayden. His father was a doctor, I believe, retired now, James Hayden's father, but father and mother are here. They intend to be at every single round watching James, and he is a bright talent still at a very tender age, an awful lot to offer, and that's why Ben Atkins of the Revy Racing team snapped up James Hayden at the end of the 1999 season. He's riding shotgun to his teammate John Reynolds, number 3. Hodgson there taking another look. Hislop has wound them in. You could get a fishing net over the 5 of them. They are so close as they go down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Watch the rear end in the air again of Chris Walker's Suzuki and locking up the back wheel, backing the bike in, and Hislop poised here to fire the Yamaha, maybe past Hodgson. Watch Hayden though. Hayden in third. Chris Walker fully aware there is a battle raging behind him. It's anybody's race, Roger.
When the teams want to test the braking efficiency of their bikes, they all come to test at Donington Park. Now James Hayden is very, very good on the brakes. The Ducati brakes are proven. I'd imagine it's going to be somewhere on the brakes, probably into Redgate or into Fogarty's.
It's a bright blue sky now here at Donington. The clouds have gone away. Still a stiff breeze though, but it's a bright blue Suzuki leading the race. Chris Walker, 12 seconds back now in 6th place is Neil Mackenzie. The caption telling the story, but hunting Walker down is number 5, James Hayden. Very similar crash helmets, the fluorescent yellow and the red of Walker. Was that a tail ender in front? Are they going to be able to get past the tail ender? Right on the tarmac there, hopping the knee up over the red and white curb on the inside of the track. Up to Coppice, the double apex right-hander. And here now, Hayden needs to get the power on as hard. Oh, and he got the power on in a big way. He high-sided it. The Ducati spat him on miraculously. James Hayden, okay, collects himself in a cloud of dust. That was a big one at a very fast part of the circuit. The closing stages of the last lap, and it's a tooth and nail scrap now for second place. Hodgson versus Reynolds. Reynolds on the inside of Coppice. Is he going to be able to hold it and stay tight? Heeling the Ducati over. Can Hodgson get the drive out of here? Chris Walker's heading for the flag in pretty spectacular fashion. Reynolds gets second. Number 3 Reynolds. Number 4 Hodgson gets third. But the race victory in round 4 goes to that man, Chris Walker, and what a blistering ride it was. So 25 points go to Chris Walker, but some way it compensates for what he didn't score in round 3, but he'll be well aware that John Reynolds, who chased him all the way to the flag, has amassed a bag full of points here at Donington Park. Hodgson, Hislop got 4th, Mackenzie 5th, a good ride. Rutter and Young scored there in 9th and 10th, and again top privateer John Crockford. So 83 points. Reynolds leads the championship from Hodgson, Walker, 2 Ducatis and a Suzuki. What a great championship we have ahead of us.
I was too far back really to challenge Chris. James came past and then did his best to take me off with him. It was awful. I mean, he just didn't stand a chance with that. He just lost the back end and he went over. So yeah, it was just one of those things really.
Yeah, I mean, the bike, to be fair, the bike worked brilliantly. The tyres did go off a little bit, but that was down to the ones we chose really, and obviously a bit better than everybody else's, so well chuffed.
Joyous scenes on the rostrum as Chris Walker receives his garland for winning round 4. The Superbikes have made their annual visit to Thruxton here in Hampshire for rounds 5 and 6 of the MB4U.com British Superbike Championship. While we've all been away doing other things over the winter, the organisers here have worked really hard laying down a new track surface. But even given that, the sheer scale and the speeds round here make it one of the most intimidating circuits on the calendar. Double 600 champion, he was bound to be good, wasn't he, Crawford? Row 1 then, that's it confirmed. Crawford, Hodgson, Reynolds, Walker, Hislop, Brown, Hayden and Toseland gets the Honda onto row 2. 0.2 of a second separates those 4 men on the front row here. A 20-lap race ahead of them, 47 miles for round 5 of the Thruxton circuit. The lights go green and away they go. First time into the right-hander of Allard. They're then up through the gearbox, throwing it left and right into the complex of Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave, and hitting the front immediately, number 4, Neil Hodgson. A great start for Neil Hodgson. Chris Walker's gone with him. Out into the country now, Hodgson leads. The number 4, INS Ducati, who qualified so well here. 2 Suzukis and 2 Ducatis made up the front row. John Reynolds was 3rd fastest. Chris Walker was 4th fastest. This man was 2nd quickest. Number 4, Neil Hodgson, leads the race. Alongside me, a man who rode here in the first race of the day, finishing 3rd on an R1 Yamaha. As I just interrupt myself, there's Steve Hislop, already 1 mile an hour quicker than the pole position time and well inside the pole position time. Alongside me, Matt Llewellyn. Matt, this is a fast circuit.
Yes, Barry, it's one of the fastest in the country that will be on the calendar this year. We've got an onboard camera with Chris Walker, who's just about to go through the church section, which is roughly about 120, 130 mile an hour, so that just sums up how quick some of the corners are.
Well, the new surface all the way round, offering lots of grip. The number 3 Ducati of John Reynolds coming alongside Walker, with him going his teammate number 5 James Hayden, riding shotgun. They drop back just to a respectable distance behind the Suzuki, because when Chris Walker fires the throttle, the fireworks fly here. And Thruxton is no exception. It's a 5-man freight train onto the start-finish again, into the right-hander of Allard. Leading, number 4, Neil Hodgson. Then it's number 2, Chris Walker. John Reynolds, who was 3rd in qualifying, is now 3rd in the race. Number 3 on the bike. With him goes number 5, James Hayden. The championship positions coming here. Reynolds, the championship leader, on 83 points. Hodgson is runner-up, and if he can hold this lead, 25 points. The 3rd bike in that chasing bunch there, the number 52 Honda of James Toseland, leading the number 9 Yamaha of Paul Brown, the Humbersider, and sandwiched in between them, another SP1 VTR 1000, number 16 Shane Byrne. The Hondas are looking good. But meanwhile, Neil Hodgson, from the Isle of Man now, resident in the Isle of Man, is easing away here now. With him, the unbelievably quick Chris Walker, who is going, already started this season better than he did last year, because he's had a win already, back on board with Walker.
Here we go, James Hayden look for the inside. Yeah, he's gone by Chris on the brakes. Oh, just a bit of a contact touch there. That's really upset James Hayden. John Reynolds gone around outside.
It's also given Steve Hislop, number 8, the opportunity to close, and there are flags waving. There are flags waving on the start-finish straight. There's been an incident somewhere around the circuit. Meanwhile, the top 5 go on, but there is definitely a problem. Oh, this is it. That's Shane Byrne. Oh, what a dramatic crash. Shane and John Crawford, number 11, misses the rider but collects the bike. That was a big one. There it is, red flag, with Shane Byrne's bike at the club chicane. The restart for round 5 will be over 13 laps, and they line up in the positions in which they were at the end of the final completed lap. In other words, at the end of lap 7. So the pole position in this instance will be Neil Hodgson on the right-hand side of your picture, obscured as it happens by the board there, but wait for the lights to go to green again, and Hodgson will shoot out from behind the board, but he doesn't shoot out quickly enough, because it's number 2, Chris Walker, on the Suzuki, who gets the drop. He is unbelievable at starting, Chris Walker, and I'll just take this opportunity quickly to tell you that Shane Byrne, the rider who fell, has been taken to the medical centre, checked over. He is basically okay, but has been transferred to hospital for further tests and observation. Meanwhile, Hodgson now, number 4, easing past The number 3 Ducati of John Reynolds tucked in there behind as well in 4th place. Number 5 James Hayden, but it's Reynolds in 3rd, Hodgson in 2nd, but a new race leader this time, Matt, Chris Walker.
Yeah, Chris got an excellent start there for the restart, Barry, so he's really got his head down now, trying to get a gap on Neil Hodgson in 2nd place, but round here it'll be very difficult to get away.
What Walker has to do, of course, is, for one, he has to beat Hodgson, and he has to beat him by a bigger margin than Hodgson was leading him at the stoppage in the first part. So clearly Chris Walker knows what he's got to do. Matt, you rode here earlier in the day. There is a new surface. Are the bumps levelled out, or is it still quite a wild place?
It's still very, very difficult in places. It's a lot smoother than last year due to the resurface, but the bumps are still there in little places, so you still get a lot of feedback from the bike, but the grip's good for the tyres, so that's not a bad thing.
You've won championships on Ducati, you know all about Ducati machinery, and it's the INS Ducati still in 2nd place, but looking hard here at the club chicane. Walker now knows he's got a job on his hands. He's got 3 Ducatis, factory Ducatis, breathing down his neck. He's on a factory Suzuki. I was about to say, you know all about Ducatis. Would there be any advantage between the two machines round here?
Obviously, the Suzuki will have a really good top end, which will suit the faster parts of the circuit, and the Ducati will have the mid-range low-down grunt, you know, coming out the chicanes and the complex. So it'll be a very interesting situation.
Every time they come up to the chicane at this point, there is a huge standing ovation as into the lead goes James Hayden. So the number 5 Ducati has gone past Neil Hodgson. Hayden then on his way to a Part 2 victory here. What will that do for the overall standings? It's all about time, I remind you. And James Hayden was running strongly in the first part of the race. Chris Walker now still in 4th. Can he do anything about that? But in the back of your picture there, in 5th place, the red number 8 Yamaha of Steve Hislop, who's coming up to join the big boys. Yes, he is. Hislop on the charge. Within the number 22 green Kawasaki in 6th place of Steve Plater, flicking it right and left. Walker up another place past John Reynolds. Walker back up to 3rd.
Back at the chicane again, but it's going to be the overtaking place all race. He's looking for the inside line. He's done him. He's done Hodgson.
Terrific move by Chris Walker up to 2nd. He means business, Chris Walker. Look how close Hislop is coming now. The number 8 red Yamaha of Hislop. He's dialed the right number and he's got the response as he comes into the complex now. Hislop, he's wound them in while the others, of course, were tripping each other up. Steve Hislop made hay while he had a clear track ahead of him. And look now at the race leader James Hayden going away. Anybody's 2nd place, I reckon, Matt.
Yeah, this is really good for James. He can get himself out front. He's got a clear track in front of him, no people to get in his way. Chris has now gone into 2nd. He'll just try and chase James Hayden down.
Ducati leads, Suzuki in 2nd, Ducati in 3rd, Ducati in 4th, and it's the red Yamaha of Steve Hislop who has started the 2000 season so consistently. Hislop is up to 4th, looking back from Chris Walker. He's going round the outside of Hodgson. Hislop, and he's gone inside Walker. He is now in 2nd place. That is staggering. Steve Hislop stormed by with a flourish, and he now leads the chasing quartet up Woodham Hill for the last time. Oh, and he's been passed by Chris Walker. This is a dash to the chicane. James Hayden is already out in front for the checkered flag. Remember, this is a 2-part race, but certainly in the 2nd part, Hayden gets the win. Chris Walker in 2nd, Hislop in 3rd in this 2nd part. What will that do to the results on adjusted time? A clenched fist for James Hayden from Berkhamsted, but he has indeed lifted the overall victory from Walker. Hodgson's result dropped him to 3rd. Reynolds just pipped Steve Hislop into 5th. It's that quintet again.
I knew at the end of the race the tyres were going to be going off, and I felt if I could be out front, then maybe, you know, I'd be able to just etch away. And I knew I had to beat Neil by 0.4 as well. I knew it'd be a big battle, so I just tried my hardest to get down. And the last lap out of church, I just got a little bit sideways, and I thought, are they going to all come past me? I was zigzagging everyone, but no one appeared, and I was like, phew.
And the tension here is very high indeed, because these uncertain weather conditions make life very tricky. And of course, what do the riders do? That's always a dilemma. But let me tell you, what Chris Walker does when the lights go green is lead the race. It's the only way Chris Walker knows how to ride a bike. The number 2 Suzuki, he nails it from the start, and through the complex for the first time, Chris Walker leads, slotting into 2nd place. It's number 4 again, Neil Hodgson. Then it's the Ducati of John Reynolds. We're on board now with Chris Walker as he comes out of the complex, out of Seagrave, heading down towards Noble, the left-hander. He'll turn it in here. 5th gear at this point, down 1 gear for Noble, sweeping through, and then the long right of Goodwood all the way round to Church. And this circuit at Thruxton really works the right-hand side of the tyres incredibly hard. And the first race finishers, James Hayden's tyre had almost fallen to pieces. Huge wobble from the front end of the Suzuki as we ride with Chris Walker. The meteoric Yamaha went past Walker on the Suzuki, and it's Hodgson. You saw Hodgson's hand going on the clutch there as he went down the gearbox into the club chicane. 2nd gear through here, but it's the Yamaha leading of Steve Hislop, 11 times Isle of Man TT winner. And smoke from Crawford Suzuki running in 4th. Now, is that smoke coming from... No, it's coming from outside of the exhaust system. Is it throwing oil on the circuit? Crawford is unaware of that smoke. Surely the other riders behind him will be concerned about that. It's spewing oil. It looks as though it's oil spillage, Matt.
Yeah, there's got a very big problem there, but he's not lost any power. John's not aware of the problem at all yet at all. Just hope we can get some feedback. We've got a bit of a slide on there. That might give him inclination to look down, spot the smoke, and he'll pull straight over, hopefully.
Is it throwing oil onto the rear tyre? Oh, he's tweaked it.
He's spotted it.
Goodness for that. And Crawford's got out again. He starts across furthest from you on pole position on his spare Suzuki. But again, it's Chris Walker, number 2, who gets the drop from Neil Hodgson. Into 3rd this time goes John Crawford on his spare bike, the number 11. He's sitting there, and a bad start from pit lane. Out of pit lane came Michael Rutter. Number 31, Michael Rutter, started from pit lane. Any ideas, Matt?
He must have had a problem, so he couldn't have done the warm-up lap, so he must have started from the pit lane. You have to let the pack lead by the first corner, then he's able to rejoin the race.
Well, numbers 31 and 96, Michael Rutter and Paul Young respectively, riding the race stringer Yamahas, have not had a happy season so far. They are lacking something in terms of power and speed, and we've yet to see the best from the other Yamaha pairing. Not the case of Brown and Hislop. And look at Hislop, there's Paul Brown as well, running strongly at the front, side by side. It's Hodgson and Walker, and I suspect in the early days of this championship, this is what we're going to see. These two at it, hammer and tongs. 1/4 race distance covered, and John Reynolds has gone scything past Chris Walker. As Hodgson gets a huge wobble alongside. They are so brave, unbelievably brave and committed, I think that is the word.
Yeah, Steve's got the inside line now. I think, is he going to keep it? No, Neil's gone round the outside, the long way round.
John Reynolds in 3rd place, number 3, just sitting there waiting for something dramatic to happen.
Neil's just put his hand up there, whether it's a few spits of spot or rain. Yeah, we've got a few rain drops on the lens there, Barry, so...
That was interesting. Hodgson put his hand up. Let me tell you, the organisers here have agreed with the top 5 riders that if any 2 of them are unhappy about the conditions, 2 of them indicate the race will be stopped. Hodgson again gesticulating. So clearly Hodgson, and it's more difficult to run at the front when the conditions are unknown. You don't have anyone to... Oh, it's not. So there's your 2. There, the 2 indicating the track is now getting unrideable. The organisers will now... Oh, you can see
big feedback there, Barrett. A lot of rear end slide. Obviously, it wasn't quite damp. Now, these lads are race week in, week out. They know the conditions. Good move.
That is now a result. So Hodgson indeed gets the win. It's a universal stoppage all the way around the circuit. Hodgson gets the win. He's lighting up the rear tyre with delight. Hislop too was running well. He's got trouble fighting his way through the fog. That won't do the tarmac any good. But there you have the confirmation of the result. Hodgson, Hislop, Reynolds, Hayden, Walker 5th. He'll be disappointed with that, and that's what it does to the championship. Reynolds now just 6 points clear of Hodgson. They're in rival teams, same bike. Top privateer today, winning both races from a 3rd row start, John Crockford on the GSXR 750 Suzuki.
Well, it's nice to finish the weekend because it started off good yesterday, went through a bad patch, terrible first couple of races really for me, but we had a nice setup there, and I think had it gone the distance, I had it, but I was right behind Neil when he stuck his hand up, and I was like, yeah, for sure, because it's just so fast here. If you lost the front, he'd go forever, you know, but it's such a good race though.
Yeah, I'm pleased. I'll tell you, that was so hard in them conditions. There was so much rain on my visor. It was really dangerous. I was having two-wheel slides, and for 3 laps I was trying to get the race stopped. Not because I was in the lead, it was dangerous. But I didn't realise I'd won at the end. I didn't know if there was going to be a restart or something. But so pleased for the team. The team's been awesome. All weekend they've worked so hard. A lot of people have come from INS, so I'm pleased to do it for the sponsors.
First win this year for Hodgson then. He'll have to make good the damage he did to pit lane, otherwise the organisers won't be pleased with him. A quick word on Shane Byrne, who crashed 2 cracked vertebrae, but he hopes to be back for Alton Park. Amazing. This is Alton Park in Cheshire, and we're here for round 7 and 8 of the MB4U.com British Superbike Championship. I think I know how Neil Hodgson and Chris Walker feel after their fantastic rides in the World Superbike Championship just 7 days ago at Donington Park. They've been on top of the world all week, but now it's down to earth at a bump here in Alton Park because, yes, they are on the front row, but it's John Reynolds who's stolen pole position. Championship leader John Reynolds is looking every bit as sharp as the year he won the title back in 1992, and to prove it, he's on pole. Well, in the afternoon when the rains came down, it was former champion Neil Mackenzie who was quickest on the number 7 Ducati, clearly his experience coming into play in very bad conditions. And there we are, qualifying. Reynolds on pole, Walker, Hislop, Hodgson completing the front row. Then it's Hayden, Mackenzie did well in 6th, Plater and Paul Young. Crawford, Byrne, Rutter and Brown make up row 3. And James Toseland on the Honda on row 4. Well, happy he needs to be because he's got some determined men alongside. Watch the traffic lights at the top, they go to green. The first right-hander is Old Hall, and a rocket start for Chris Walker, number 2 on the Suzuki. But slotting into 2nd place, his arch rival, Neil Hodgson, number 4 on the INS Ducati. So it's Hodgson in 2nd, championship leader Reynolds, number 3 in 3rd, as they sweep now away through the left-handers along Lakeside, Island Bend, heading up now towards the right-hander. This is Island Bend. The right-hander after that will be the Shell Oils turn. A very, very steeply cambered Hodgson has taken the lead. So Neil Hodgson puts the Ducati in front. Walker looking at the inside. Reynolds cannot afford to let them get away. Tucked into 4th place, it's number 5, James Hayden. And back in front is Chris Walker. He does not, Roger, does he miss an opportunity?
Neil Hodgson did something then with his left hand at Shell Oils hairpin there, which caused him to lose a little bit of time. Chris Walker back in front, but obviously the first lap and early stages in this race as they come down now to Knickerbrook. And this is the incident whereby Neil Hodgson got past Chris Walker. This is Island Bend, 4th gear, believe it or not, 130 miles an hour through there with the left knee touching the road. Obviously then very important to get the right line back into Shell Oils hairpin. This is the slowest corner on the circuit, 1st gear corner here. This is where you see perhaps Hodgson's left hand comes off the bar, he takes a tear off, so obviously something's disturbed him and got on that visor during the early part of that lap.
Hodgson doing an admirable job, and they are side by side. It's Walker, Hodgson though, round Island Bend again. That is Hodgson's favourite left-hander. He is mightily quick round there at the right-hand hairpin. He's got to stay tight, defend that line. If he leaves it too wide, through again will go the Suzuki of Walker. But now heading down towards Fulston's chicane. It's a left, left flick. Hodgson now riding a defensive line, clipping the apex. Again, the left-handed apex, staying very tight. Let's see how they measure up for speed. Roger, this was close.
Well, Chris Walker there moved onto the part of the track where he knew Hodgson was going to try and come past, so that forced Hodgson really onto a tight line.
But if you're wondering where 5th in the championship Steve Hislop is, I can tell you he's running strongly in 5th place, qualified on the front row, of course. He's using new clutches this weekend, which hopefully will help him downshift, change down on the Yamaha quicker. But he's not on the pace with these 2 men at the front. A twitch from the number 4 Ducati as Neil Hodgson peels in to Old Hall, away down the avenue. over the brow of the hill, going slightly right towards the left-hander of Cascades. This is where Ray Stringer crashed so dramatically a few years ago on the Ducati, fortunately without injury. That's one thing about the safety aspect of modern road racing. Good runoff areas. It gives the riders confidence. It gives them the enthusiasm and the drive to ride absolutely 150%, and you will not see men go around Alton Park quicker than you are these two men at the moment. Again, that slightly wide line by Hodgson, opening the door, throwing just a little invitation to Chris Walker, and as I've said, Chris Walker does not need too many invitations. Through Falstons on the final lap, about 1.5 miles to go. Is Chris Walker, another tail-ender, another privateer ahead of these men. Is Chris Walker going to be able to capitalise? He's closing on the back of Neil Hodgson, charging hard now into Knickerbrook at the bottom. Then away they will go over Clay Hill, rising over the top under the bridge. The back marker very sensibly moving to the right-hand side of the track. Druids, the right-hander of Druids, in the trees here at Alton Park. It's Walker right behind Hodgson under the bridge. Still more tail-enders ahead. Which side is Chris Walker going to go? He's on the outside. Can he cut back and get the drive out of the turn? That's what he's going to go for. He's going to go to Hodgson's right, get the power on, through and over Dearly. Look at Walker side by side, his knee into Hodgson. He's drifting a touch wide, but Neil Hodgson gets it by a gnat's whisker. That was very, very close indeed, and a riveting closing lap. Confirmation of Hodgson's win. Reynolds was third. Hayden Hislop got fifth, just marginally ahead of Steve Plater on the Kawasaki, and seventh for James Toseland.
My goal is to win the championship, and every time I'm sat on the line, I'm more nervous than I've ever been before. You know, it's all new to me, is this. I've never really fought for a championship before. It's so exciting. I'm loving the racing. The INS Ducati is absolutely awesome. Just, I press the button and it's on autopilot. I'm enjoying myself so much.
Well, he has every right to, because he now has a 3-point lead in the championship. That's Hodgson's second win in the series. Well, John Reynolds, of course, will really be trying too, because he's just lost his championship lead. Reynolds starts from pole position, but it's Chris Walker who gets the whole shot again from the word go. Old Hall, the weather, the curb cam shot, absolutely fantastic. A full grid, 36 riders. The weather has been very kind to us here at Alton Park. Clouds have threatened, but they've gone away, and the sun is now out with a vengeance. A good start by Steve Hislop on the red number 8 Yamaha. He's in third place. Chris Walker leads, where this time is Neil Hodgson. Not such a good start for the number 4 Ducati rider. Walker now getting away. Is this the opportunity Chris Walker needs? He leads now by something like 5 machine lengths from John Reynolds, who is in second. It's Hislop, number 8, in third. Hodgson up to 4th. Neil Hodgson already making amends for that pretty sluggish start in 4th place through Falston chicane. Chris Walker, a bit of cement dust on the track there from an earlier incident. That's there to dry up the oil. Hodgson going well to the right, our left, your right, of everyone as they come over Hilltop, through the bottom, through Knickerbrook, powering now up over Clay Hill. Chris Walker leading. He wants to get as much space, of course he does, between himself and the pursuing bunch. And the man who's threatening right now is number 3, John Reynolds. And a privateer crash. That's Dave Redgate, but the rider is okay. A little bit unhappy, a little bit knocked about, but he's okay. It's necessitated the pace car. The rules here mean that the riders must not take advantage of this situation. They have to circulate behind the car in the order in which they were prior to the car coming out on the track. When the lights go off, the car heads for pit lane, the race is back on, and there'll be a green flag on the start finish. Away they go. But of course this situation allows everyone to bunch up. It does mean that Hislop is much closer in third place to Reynolds, and what's more, Hodgson might well have the opportunity to get through the traffic.
One thing that the pace car does do is it worries the riders because their tyres cool down. As you can imagine, these tyres they're all on Dunlop tyres at the front, and these tyres do cool down quite considerably when they're not pushed to their limit. So I'd imagine that this next lap, or in fact this one and the one after, may be reasonably steady by comparison to the other laps, so that they get the tyres back up to speed. But it does give the riders chance to bunch up, chance to collect their thoughts, but the race is now back on, and it's still Walker at the front. There we have a shot of the intercoms that the teams use, and they're all in radio contact with each other, signalling from around the circuit. The guys get on their pit boards the latest information, and those intercoms provide them. But it's now back with the action. There you can see the two Ducatis with Hodgson and Mackenzie. Mackenzie's riding exceptionally well. Mackenzie's found some form this weekend. He was the quickest in the wet training throughout the whole weekend, and he's really found some form.
By his own admission, he's not adapted to the Ducati as quickly as he would have hoped, and he spent half an hour out on the Donington circuit after the World Superbike round with some new settings. That certainly seems to have paid off, because he's really giving Neil Hodgson a hard time, as indeed is John Reynolds giving race leader Chris Walker a hard time. But Walker would appear at face value to be in a much more comfortable position in this race, although if you can ever be comfortable when you're racing a Superbike at these colossal speeds, then I don't know. But certainly 5 machine lengths tell the story. Chris Walker out for a win here. The leather's flapping. Chris Walker seems to wear his leathers slightly bigger than anyone else. I think he likes the freedom of movement. He needs that for his all-action motocross style, and that's where his roots were. Reynolds is making a move on Walker. Into the lead at Island Bend goes John Reynolds, and Walker's fighting back. He doesn't give up easily, does he, Chris Walker? Of course he doesn't. Is he going to keep it tight here at the hairpin? Oh yeah, a spurt of flame from the exhaust of the Suzuki as he backed down 3 gears for that one. Away he goes now towards Fulston. The Suzuki people have also got a television monitor, and this is the team, of course, that Neil Hodgson represents, the INS Ducati team. They've seen their man have 1 win today. Is he going to make it 2? He's certainly taking 3rd place from James Hayden. So Hayden relegated to 4th, and I have to say Hayden has ridden a remarkable season so far. He's stayed on the bike, he's got his head in gear, he's cool, calm, collected. He can only build on that, Roger.
Well, Hodgson's the fastest man on the track. As we've seen, he's come from 2.5 seconds behind Walker at one stage to catch up to visibly what we can see now, and it's obviously less than a second as the 3 of them are all line astern coming round into the Shellall's hairpin. Now, with 2 laps to go, it's going to be anybody's guess as to who's going to win this. It's nice to see that there's 4 at the front, 3 Ducatis with the Suzuki, and they all are in with a shout, believe me. And the most important thing is to get a plan together so that you're not having to fight into the last corner.
Well, these are the 5 men who've really shown the way all season, Mackenzie being the exception. But of course, Hodgson there was coming under pressure again from Hayden. Hayden doesn't give up early. Chris Walker will know that this battle's going on behind him. He's got privateers, tail enders again behind him. Is he going to be able to capitalise and do exactly what Neil Hodgson did to him in round 7, the first race here at Alton Park, and that's thread his way through cleanly? Next time round it will be the penultimate lap, so they've got about 5 miles to go, and my eyes are on Hodgson. The crowd here are on their toes, but Reynolds is desperate to get the championship lead. Their determination is without question, and the ability, as the sun shines on them here for 2.7 miles going into the last lap here at Alton Park, is going to be a startling performance, I'm sure. Walker will do everything within his power to keep the 2 men behind him. James Hayden, fair credit to him, has ridden well, and it's Hodgson making a move at his favourite Island Bend. He is good round here. He's extremely good, but he's caught up in the traffic. Walker's going with him. Chris Walker all the way, hugging the back wheel of... Oh, he's touched! He hit Neil Hodgson. There was a bit of elbow bashing there again. That's the 2nd time today that Chris Walker dived up the inside, and in fairness to him, it would appear that Neil Hodgson left a little bit of room there for him. So the opening was there, and I've said before, he needs no second beckoning. Hodgson on the right-hand side of your picture, number 4, the number 2 Suzuki of Chris Walker. Away they go into Knickerbrook. They'll get the power on now, away over Clay Hill. How does he hold this? Is it going to be defensive? What's going to happen? I've no idea. Away they go again through the woods. I'm asking Roger Burnett a rhetorical question there, because the action is unfolding on the track here as they go through Druids, down through the dip. They come up towards Lodge this time. Hodgson's hard on the outside. Oh, it's another contact, but miraculously Chris Walker stayed on. They're both in the gravel. That's at everyone's... Oh, Walker's down. Chris Walker's down. Hodgson has kept his bike running. That's incredible stuff. and it's a Revy Racing 1-2 for John Reynolds and James Hayden. The persistence paid off. Startling scenes, incredible jubilation for that team, but woe and despair for poor Chris Walker. Equally, Neil Hodgson, we have yet to see where Hodgson finished. Chris Walker, but Reynolds got the win.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I don't really know exactly what happened. I was going, defending my line down the inside just like Neil did in the first race, and I braked, where so I could definitely not run wide around the corner like Neil did. I had a real good chance of passing him in the first race, and his Ducati's a little bit faster than mine, so I knew if I made the same mistake, he'd beat me to the dash to the line. So I just, braked and was braking down, and he came alongside me as soon as I braked, and just started turning in, far too early for the corner.
Well, there's never a dull moment in Superbike racing. Reynolds and Hayden, it's a Revy 1-2. Mackenzie back on the rostrum, good to see. Hislop 4th. Toseland, a brilliant 5th on the SP1 Honda. And in actual fact, a Suzuki protest meant that Neil Hodgson was docked 36 seconds, the net result of which he was bumped back to 14th place behind Chris Walker. Reynolds then 20 points clear of Hodgson in the championship. Hayden in 3rd, Walker is 4th. This is the Snetterton circuit in Norfolk, and we're here for rounds 9 and 10 of the British Superbike Championship. And this piece of tarmac behind me is the Revit Straight, the fastest straight in the country. It goes on forever. The riders hit 170 miles an hour coming down here, then it's down 4 gears, hard on the front brake, into the S's, taken at about 55, a left-right flip-flop, and this is where we expect most of the action to take place.
0.6 of a second inside the lap record, Neil Hodgson set a blistering pace during qualifying in his pole position. John Reynolds second, and Mackenzie making a GSE, 2 bikes on the front row there. Row 3, and Marty Craggill replaces Peter Goddard on loan by Kawasaki to the World Superbike team.
Back down the start-finish straight, they have to go uphill away from the start. On the right, Neil Hodgson, alongside him Reynolds. It was Hodgson and Mackenzie on the left-hand side. The number 7 INS Ducati shot away, but he's been overhauled now by Chris Walker and Reynolds, but it's his teammate, second in the championship, Neil Hodgson, number 4, hitting the front at Riches, the first right-hander. Along the back they go to Sears, the next right-hander. Then it's heads down, up through the gearbox, all the way down the Revit Straight, and Hodgson leaving the rest in his wheel tracks on board with the number 9 Yamaha, Paul Brown. Somebody carved him up there. There's debris, mayhem. Another rider down halfway round the first lap, and there's chaos all over the straight. This must entail a red flag, surely. Yeah, there's a rider down. There'll be race stoppage while they attend to the rider. Full race distance, 22 laps again. Hodgson had such a great start last time. Can he repeat it? Well, it was Reynolds who got the drop. Dropped the clutch. The Ducati bit, but Chris Walker on the number 2 Suzuki. Chris Walker 4th in the championship. Had that fiasco at Alton Park. You saw it at the top of the programme. He is out to make amends this time, and away he goes. Round the right-hander, Sears corner, the second right-hander now as they have left the start away down the Revit Straight, and it's Walker leading the pack. And let me tell you that Shane Byrne, one of the riders who fell, has been taken to hospital. I will update you with his condition, but 2 others who came down, John Crawford and John Crockford, leading the Privateer Championship. Crockford, they have made the restart, so they are both out there. But it's Chris Walker on the number 2 Suzuki, tucked in behind him, it's Neil Hodgson. Then it's the number 3 Ducati of John Reynolds, but Walker leads. Can the Suzuki sustain the pace round here, Roger? You have done many racing miles here, and it's quick.
Well, we're on board with John Reynolds, and Neil Hodgson came up the inside.
Now with Hodgson taking the lead, slipping in front of Chris Walker at the S's, flipping it left and right. Now they head up towards the bomb hole, the very fast right-hander, which is not the easiest corner, and there's a dip on the apex. As I went round the circuit in the course car before the race started, that dip is much more noticeable on the track than it is on the television. 3rd place, John Reynolds, fastest lap. He's the record holder around here, and he's pretty quick.
Well, this left-hander here out of the chicane is a very difficult corner because the riders know it's the only time they use the left-hand side of the tyre under acceleration. So they're very cautious there as Hodgson weaves about a little bit on the straight to try and make sure that... and we've got a fallen rider. That is Steve Plater, number 22, Steve Plater. That's at the chicane. That's the left-hand side of the tyre that I was speaking about, which is spun round. We'll see then, we've got a rear-facing shot. You see the bike twitched, the rear broke away. Exactly what I was talking about, Barry, there. The rear end broke away on the left-hand side of the tyre.
Yeah, well, it doesn't get the chance to warm up, as you said. Chris Walker now heeling into the left-hander again at the S's, having ducked under the bridge there, braking from 175 miles an hour. Paul Brown's Yamaha is like a rocket ship, so whatever they've been doing to that has worked for Paul Brown. Back again goes number 36, that's Gordon Blackley, the RAF technician, so the privateer has gone past Paul Brown on the brakes, certainly lacks out on top speed, but he's good on the brakes and he's riding extremely smoothly. Brown then in the wheel tracks of Blackley, doing his best to close him down. Yamaha versus Kawasaki, that was a close one, he nearly took Paul Brown with him and skittles away into the grass, Roger.
Well, he just lent the Kawasaki in there a little bit too hard. Very, very lucky that the bike didn't actually pin him into the tyre wall there, as you saw. As Nickel Robb now poses a problem for these three contenders, and what are they going to do? They're going one side and the other, and John Reynolds has managed to squeeze through, so very, very close quarters indeed for these guys.
Well, John Reynolds, as I say, with a 20-point championship lead, is currently giving away 9 points to the number 4 race leader, Neil Hodgson, but has Walker capitalised on the tail enders? They're weaving their way through the traffic. Reynolds almost grabbed second place there. They went either side of the back marker there. It was really, really close stuff, and you can see which side Reynolds going to go. He dives to the right. Look at Walker's fantastic all-action style with the bike sideways again into the Russell chicane as they go away up the long straight, moving to the right. John Reynolds breathing in to miss the grass and the pit wall.
That is the GSE team looking at the monitor, looking to see what the lap times are and what information to put on that pit board for their rider. And here he is, bike number 4, Neil Hodgson. Reynolds ran wide there. I saw Reynolds run wide, so that's dropped Reynolds back a little bit. You can see in the back of your picture, Reynolds has lost ground.
On the last lap, Chris Walker mounting a very strong challenge indeed, but we know just how quick Neil Hodgson's Ducati is. Neil Mackenzie down in 5th place has been working, burning the midnight oil on his Ducati as well. He's got that sorted, but Chris Walker is as close now as he's been all race, apart from when he led it, of course, in the early stages. But Hodgson went past and has led the race ever since. Has Chris Walker got any answer? Through the S's, away now towards the bomb hole. Driving hard through the right-hander, shadowing Neil Hodgson. The INS Ducati rider knows full well that he's got real pressure behind him. The number 2 Suzuki of Chris Walker as they come round Coram Curve. Walker's knee was actually on the grass, on the dirt there, down towards Russell's. They have a left and a right. Keep it all together, Neil. Just keep it on the island. Drive carefully out of here. Keep the power on. Walker is with you. He's coming around the outside. Chris Walker up the hill towards. He's in front. His fist is in the air. Something happened to Neil Hodgson, but Chris Walker got the 25 points. Nobody could be more excited than Chris Walker. What a tremendous finish and a tremendous race from the Suzuki man. Hodgson, I suspect, will be a little bit disappointed with second.
So there's confirmation of the table. Walker 0.02 of a second in front of Hodgson, Reynolds, Hayden, Mackenzie, Crawford. Craghill there, a great ride from him to 7th. Steve Hislop 8th.
I was really just hanging on in there. I'd not really got anything left in the tank, and I was struggling to just be faster than him anywhere. Everywhere I got a little bit of an edge, the next corner he pulled away from me, sort of thing. So Neil rode really well. He just made a mistake to the chicane on the last lap, which is what I was hoping, really. Kept him under pressure, and I figured that it'd take a mistake from Neil for me to win, and fortunately he made one and not me, so brilliant.
And Chris Walker, 25 points the better. The smiling face tells the story. He was thrilled with that. A great result for Chris Walker on the Suzuki. Can he do it all again in the next race? The man with the red flag moves out of the way. The lights will go from red to green. 22 laps again ahead of them. Very focused and electric was the start. The only word I can use by Neil Hodgson on the right-hand side of your picture, but just eclipsed going into the corner by Chris Walker, who came from the middle, moved across to the left to get the ideal optimum line as they go into Riches the first time, and it's Chris Walker leading. Hodgson is third. No, he's not. He's in second. Diving through on the inside of number 3, John Reynolds. On the red Team Revi Racing, number 3, Ducati, again in third. 3 on the bike, third in the race. Not where John Reynolds wants to be. He gave away valuable points in round 9. He is determined to make amends this time. Chris Walker knows full well that 25 points this time out will work wonders for his championship challenge. We are not yet halfway through the season. After here we go to Silverstone, then it's Alton, then it's Knockhill, then it's Cadwell, Mallory, Brands, and the whole circus wraps up with the finale at Donington Park, and thousands of people will be at Donington to see the conclusion of this riveting championship. That is Marty Craghill. Good performance in round 9, but he's off it, lying on the... See the sparks from the bike, his head almost on the tarmac there. Ben Atkins on the right there, chewing the gum, very focused. He knows his man's got to do well this time because the championship lead, Roger, is evaporating.
Well, I think John Reynolds is doing an excellent job. He's not trying to pass Neil Hodgson at this stage, which means that they're actually catching Chris Walker, and that's Hislop. Steve Hislop's been off the track somewhere. That is at Sears Corner. So Hislop will not be too happy with that. Now that's the look in Chris Walker's garage. So back at the front, and this time down the straight, Neil Hodgson has managed to close on Chris Walker and pass him. So Reynolds did the right thing by staying behind. The only problem is that that man, bike number 5, James Hayden, has been allowed to catch this leading group. And James Hayden, on the move, is a dangerous man. And this is the overtaking manoeuvre on board with Chris Walker. And you see that's at Sears Corner. So we're now... You'll see Hodgson come into your picture there, and you see that's what Chris Walker can see, those 2 eyes poking at him from under the seat of that big 1000cc Ducati.
It certainly punches out of the bends, but Walker closes up on the brakes again. In 6th place, you can see there John Crawford recovering really well as taking the lead. It's John Reynolds who dives past Neil Hodgson, so flicking through the S's. Reynolds leads, number 3, so he is riding like a man inspired. Hodgson relegated to 2nd. Is it going to be a double 2nd place for Neil Hodgson? Mind you, it'll be 40 points. Chris Walker appears to be sliding an awful lot. Could be that he's got handling problems with the Suzuki. They're certainly dropping Chris Walker away. Reynolds dives past Gordon Blackley, who recovered from his first race crash. He's running well, but of course he's just been lapped by the race leader Reynolds, and looking forward now with Walker as he goes past the traffic. There's Hodgson on the left-hand side of your picture. The Ducati punches along the straight a little bit quicker than the Suzuki, but it's Reynolds, John Reynolds, the 34-year-old. John Reynolds leading the race. The gap now with Hodgson closing it a little bit, trying as hard as he can round Coram Curve, squirting it down for the last time towards Russell's. Hard on the brakes now, carefully John round here. 50 miles an hour out of Russell's, then driving away up the straight. The checkered flag is in sight for John Reynolds. He's going to win this one. He's going to redeem his 3rd place in round 9 and win it. John Reynolds does. Just about composed as ever. There, Roger Marshall, the man with the headphones on, team manager, a lot more relieved this time out. His man has done it, and Neil Hodgson, 2nd in the race, first to congratulate the winner, John Reynolds.
Over 104 miles an hour average for that 22-lap race win there for John Reynolds, and confirmation of the result. Reynolds from Hodgson and Walker a good 3rd. And Reynolds still heading the championship standings from Hodgson and Walker. James Hayden would like to have been nearer the front, I think. And there we have Shane Byrne in 13th place, and he will not add to his score this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, everything looked like it was going real good. I got a good start and just pulled a little bit of a gap. And then the Ducati boys wore me down, and I was just sliding around, to be fair. The back end of the bike was just a bit loose, and when they upped the pace just that bit more, I could stay with them for a while, and then once the tyre was a bit more spent, I was doomed really, and just started dropping back. But glad to get on the rostrum again, and some good solid points.
Well, Neil, that was quick, but it looked as though the back markers might have worked against you that time. Is that the case?
No, well, yes and no. You know, it weren't the back markers' fault. They were going pretty well actually. I just didn't get a good run out of the chicane. I thought I could pass them both on horsepower, and I didn't quite manage that. So I managed to outbrake one of them, but the other one got in the way a little bit. And you know, that's racing. John rode really well, and he certainly deserved to win.
Yeah, I was disappointed, Barry, with that first race. You know, I was mortified in actual fact. I was there or thereabouts. I was in 3rd place, but no way I was going to win the race, and I don't really enjoy that. But of course, we sorted ourselves out the 2nd race and went out and did it.
So John Reynolds lifts the trophy, a big smile, and there's Catherine, Neil Hodgson's girlfriend, with the camera at the ready, and the champagne corks pop, and everybody gets wet.
This is Woodcote Corner, Silverstone. Impressive, isn't it? But let's face it, if you were in a car or on a bike doing 140 miles an hour at this point, the last thing you'd be thinking about is going up another gear and going round there even faster. But let me tell you, that's exactly what Chris Walker and Steve Hislop do. They hit 6th gear at this point, and by the time they're around the apex, they're doing well over 150. As for the Ducatis of Neil Hodgson and John Reynolds, same speed, if not a little bit quicker, but 1 gear lower. Daunting? Yeah, of course it's daunting, but it's all in a day's work for a superbike racer.
Onto the grid, and the first 4, I have to tell you, are inside of the existing lap record held by James Hayden there on the 2nd row of the grid. 3rd row there, Toseland Craghill again out on the Kawasaki, and a new name for you there, Rob Frost, standing in for the injured Shane Byrne in the Harris Honda team.
Well, he certainly is. Pole position for Neil Hodgson. 2 Ducatis, 1 Suzuki and 1 Yamaha on the front row here at Silverstone. 45 miles, a little over 45 miles, 20 laps, and Hodgson gets a flyer, number 4, but into the lead. Early start for Chris Walker, number 2, up the inside, grabbing the advantage into Copse. Neil Hodgson just ahead. Looking back now from Hodgson, on the left-hand side of your picture you saw Walker scoot past. Looking behind, the number 8 Yamaha of Steve Hislop, but it's Hodgson leading. Number 2 Chris Walker on the Suzuki in 2nd. Heeling through now down towards the back side of the circuit and into Beckett's. A very tight first gear right-hander flicking through the chicane, out of the chicane. The next one will be the right-hander of Abbey, and Walker is in 2nd. Hodgson leads. A brilliant start for Yamaha's Steve Hislop. He's there in 3rd and very much in touch. It's Reynolds, championship leader, number 3 in 4th place. A long way to go, 2¼ miles each lap this circuit, and believe me, I've walked every inch of it. It's a long way round. The thing that struck me is that there does appear to be a lack of indicators for braking. Very difficult to get a perspective here, Roger Burnett. Is it an easy circuit to ride?
Well, it's 20 laps this race distance, and yes, it is an easy circuit to ride because it's like a billiard table. I have to tell you that the tyres are in perfect contact with the tarmac the whole way through this lap. There aren't any bumps or blemishes on it. Fabulous runoff areas, and Silverstone have done a fantastic job of getting this circuit ready for superbikes. And round through to complete lap 1, onto the start and finish. Number 4 there, Neil Hodgson, tucking himself down behind the bubble, and that's the team watching from the pit counter there. They'll be signalling, watching their man and giving him every indication as to how far he is ahead. And we've got a faller, and that's Rob Frost. That's standing in for the injured Shane Byrne. And
back at the front though, the 25-year-old Neil Hodgson, who is growing in confidence, growing in stature. He's already a very tall man, but he is growing in terms of his personal self-esteem, and he knows full well that he can win this championship. That's not to say that Chris Walker, number 2, doesn't think along exactly the same lines. 3 times runner-up in the British Championship, Chris Walker. That's why he carries the number 2 plate, and he is more than desperate. He is convinced that this year could be his year.
Hodgson looks to have pulled a slight gap on Walker now. Whether Chris Walker's made a mistake off camera where we can't see as they go through the chicane one more time and down this long back straight towards Abbey Corner and past the midway point in the race. Hodgson looks like he's got this one pretty much in the bag.
Hodgson threading his way through the tail enders so soon in this race. Oh, and this the battle for 4th place. Number 22, Steve Plater. Neil Mackenzie, number 7. Then it's number 5, James Hayden. And sitting on the back of this flying quartet, number 8, Steve Hislop. We're looking forwards now from James Hayden. Twice a winner this season. He's the only man in this quartet who has won a race this season. And that's number 7, Neil Mackenzie. He will know that James Hayden burns with a passion behind him. And of course, Mackenzie, it's fair to say, in the twilight of his career, 3 times a former champion in this series. No one knows anything more about motorcycle racing than Neil Mackenzie, but he does have the fire of youth burning behind him. Hayden pushing hard. Similarly, number 22, Steve Plater on the Kawasaki, sitting currently in 4th place, and that 4th place, I have to say, looks a little bit threatened because Neil Mackenzie is looking for a way past Hodgson's teammate Mackenzie, going for 4th place, and he too is getting quicker as the weeks go by in this championship, having finally got his Ducati sorted the way he likes it. Well, meanwhile, Neil Hodgson is through the traffic. The team expecting him to come home for the checkered flag. He's still in with a few tail enders, but riding relatively calmly now as he comes out of Luffield this time, squirting up towards Woodcut Corner on the run into the checkered flag and powering through. It's Neil Hodgson. He's got this one. A fairly easy, if that's the word, victory for Neil Hodgson in round 11. And he acknowledges that one, as indeed does the crowd. And Chris Walker slipped back significantly. Can only think he had some small problem, but the tail enders might well have played a part. Well, there's confirmation of Neil Hodgson's win, almost 3 seconds from Walker at the flag. Reynolds is on the rostrum. He'll be pleased. A good ride by Mackenzie. Hayden and Plater 4th and 5th. And in fairness to John Reynolds, he's not in the best of health, suffering with a very heavy head cold this weekend, but second on the grid, so he's got to go this time. But a great start again by number 4 from pole position, Neil Hodgson, who's grabbed the whole shot. It's Chris Walker again. Chris Walker number 2. There's Steve Hislop in extremely close company, having gone past or trying to go past Neil Hodgson. We're looking back now from the number 4 factory Ducati. Hislop on the Yamaha breathing down his neck, but it's Chris Walker getting away a bit this time. Hodgson in second, already with a race 1 win under his belt. Just 1 point now he trails championship leader John Reynolds by, who is sitting in 4th place. The number 3 Ducati, the Team Revi Racing Ducati in 4th. Hislop on the red Yamaha. James Toseland, number 52 on the Honda, out of the running this time, but he's going to restart. Can he get back in the points? Well, the youngster has tenacity. The shake of the head tells you how furious. Oh, and he nearly lost traction there. There's something on the track, I suspect, at that point, and we have a red flag. So a restart, and away they go. A little wheelie from the number 8 Yamaha, Steve Hislop. Not such a good start that time. Streaming now towards the first right-hander of Copps. Through goes Chris Walker. Again, he grabbed the lead this time. Hodgson, so it's deja vu for this pair. Reynolds, much better this time. He's in 3rd. Plato got away extremely well too. So the Kawasaki sitting there in close company as they head away out in the country for the first time.
This fantastic helicopter shot just shows how beautiful this circuit is. Through the chicane, now flicking left, holding the bike over to the left, down towards Abbey Corner. John Reynolds got a much better start, as you mentioned, and Steve Hislop will be disappointed that it was actually red flag, because Steve Hislop's now down in 6th place. This is the view from Neil Hodgson's onboard camera, rear facing as they exit Abbey Corner.
There, Paul Denning, Suzuki factory bots, watching his man lead the race. Chris Walker, number 2 then, delivering through the chicane. Away they go now, down towards Abbey, the right-hander. It's Hodgson in very close company. Hodgson making a move now on Chris Walker. Neil Hodgson, oh, there's more contact. Chris Walker holding the tight line. Hodgson's down, unbelievably. It's a repeat of what happened almost at Alton Park. Neil Hodgson is off the Ducati. This time, however, Chris Walker stayed on, and he's away. Roger, what happened here?
Well, this is a difficult place to overtake. Neil Hodgson got past Chris Walker. You see Walker's struggling to control his machine, ends up on the curb on the inside. There was no grip there, and he had no choice but to bang into Neil Hodgson. But I think that's going to be a controversial move as we see it from the on-bike camera on the back of Neil's bike. Let's hope that's not damaged. But Neil not at all happy, but back at the front, and that's Walker still from Hislop. Now Hislop's not going to give up, because Hislop needs a result. He hasn't been on the podium for some races now, and starting the year as he did with taking the first 3 pole positions, whoa, and James Hayden says, hang on a minute, pick that Yamaha up out of the way, because I'm coming past and I'm the man now that's going to chase Walker.
Hislop looking over the shoulder to see who else was coming, because this was a very brave attempt by James Hayden to grab 2nd place, which he did successfully, pushing Steve Hislop just a little bit wide and almost closing right on the back of Chris Walker as he did so. Chris Walker leads, number 2. Then in 2nd place it's number 5, James Hayden. Then number 8, Steve Hislop, who knows that he's got John Reynolds, and we're on the penultimate lap with Hayden's Ducati wiggling all over the circuit. John Reynolds is in 4th, and he knows he wants to get more points, but it's Hislop on that final rostrum place at the moment. Mackenzie has gone past Reynolds. Into 4th goes number 7, Neil Mackenzie. So John Reynolds slipping back, obviously the effects of his cold. He's not a well boy this weekend. The next round is in 2 weeks' time at Alton Park. He will almost certainly be fit by then, but it's Chris Walker holding the tight line now on the last lap. A burst of flame from the Suzuki as the fuel inside the exhaust system catches fire as he puts the power on under bridge. Away he goes now into the stadium area, the complex now, where the crowd can see that Chris Walker is poised to take his victory here in the second race, round 12, marching on while in fact his arch rival Neil Hodgson is watching from the sidelines. James Hayden having a very close look. Can Hayden steal a march going into the closing stages of this riveting race, incident-packed race, and a terrific performance by the 30 riders in front of the 20,000 plus spectators here at Silverstone. Hayden now, they know the tail enders. Chris Wilson, number 34, again about to be zapped by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very fast men, but it's number 2, Chris Walker. Past Wilson, he goes on the outside. Hayden shaving past Chris Wilson, the tail ender. James Hayden knew full well then he had to hang on to the coattails of Chris Walker. We are on our last lap, about a mile and a half to do.
It's an interesting race as this has developed, because I think if Neil Hodgson were in it, he would have set a pace that would have spread everyone out. The fact that he's gone out of it means that everybody's bunched up really closely. Now James Hayden, again, a man that would like to have a good result. Walker rides a very defensive line down there into Abbey. You can see that Hayden is leaning across to the right, Walker's up the inside, and now we're on the approach to bridge, and it's just the infield to go.
The bridge ahead of you, the right-hander as they drop down in the dip, the right-hander of bridge, then the left of Priory. Hayden is all over the back of Chris Walker, went in there a bit hot. Priory second gear, Brooklands the tight one, round the outside goes Hayden. He is trying everything he knows, and now the right-hander, the sweeping, tightening, ever tightening right-hander of Luffield, and the stadium area is in sight. Woodcut corner, they will go up through the gearbox here, 5th on the Ducati, 6th on the Suzuki, but the checkered flag is poised for Chris Walker. Fist in the air tells the story. A great win for the Suzuki Teamster. He needed that one for the championship. He needed that one for his self-esteem. And there you go, average speed 97.03. Your winner Chris Walker, and number 8, Steve Hislop, 3rd and on the rostrum. The customary wheelie from Chris Walker. What a tremendous ride. Poor Neil Hodgson watched it all going on, but Walker, Hayden, Hislop, Mackenzie, Reynolds was 5th. That will help with this championship challenge. And the gap at the top of the table significantly bigger than it was coming into this. 12 points now the gap Reynolds leads the table by. Walker has closed remarkably well. James Hayden too did himself the world of good, and Toseland on 82 points on the Honda. He's the leading Honda in 9th place.
Yeah, I was sliding around a lot, and I figured I'd followed people in practice that were kind of lapping a second a lap slow, and there's virtually nowhere to pass them around here, so I thought that if I held a defensive line and didn't make any mistakes, then I'd be pretty safe as long as I got a good run onto the back straight. Made sure I got that corner right every lap, and just kept my head down.
Welcome to rounds 13 and 14 of the MB4U.com British Superbike Championship. We're making a return visit here to Alton Park, and I'm standing on the tarmac. And it's not just any old piece of tarmac. This is the very piece of track which saw the now well-documented and infamous coming together of Chris Walker and Neil Hodgson just a few short weeks ago. It looks wide enough. This is the entry to Lodge Corner. But believe me, when you're fighting for track space, position is vital. That's why it happened. That's why they touched. Are we going to see more of the same today?
During qualifying, the first 5 riders on the grid are inside pole sitter Neil Hodgson's lap record. Hodgson's lap was the fastest ever two-wheel lap around Alton Park. On the 3rd row there, Crockford, the top privateer, in 11th place, and Steve Plater, struggling, will not race today because he's sustained an injury during qualifying.
Well, round 13, 18 laps then ahead of the riders as they line up. Oh, there's a hand in the air. Neil Hodgson's hand's in the air, Roger. Number 4's got a problem.
Well, there's the clerk of the course talking to him. His machine is being wheeled to the back of the grid, and the starting machine is there. There is the team manager, Colin Wright. It appears to me that Hodgson has stalled his machine and has to start from the back of the grid.
What drama! As round 13 gets underway, he has gifted the other 3 men on the front row with a wonderful opportunity to make hay while the sun shines here at Alton Park. Neil Hodgson, number 4, has started from the back of the pack. Ducati, and he has to really work for a living now. It's number 2, Chris Walker, followed by number 8, Steve Hislop on the red Yamaha. Tucking in behind, it was Hayden, by the look of it. James Hayden, number 5 on the Ducati. Championship leader John Reynolds is where? He's fourth. Then it's Mackenzie. Talk us through it.
This is a rear-facing shot from Chris Walker's bike. You can see how fast Walker is off the grid. Steve Hislop there, bike number 8, cuts across the front of James Hayden as they go round Old Hall Corner for the first time before the plunge down to Cascades.
Hilltop, heads down, heading down towards, there's Mackenzie. And Hodgson, unbelievably, has gone past the number 24 Kawasaki of Marty Craggill. Hodgson is up to 7th place. This is sensational.
Well, Neil Hodgson dominated qualifying from start to finish, even in the wet session. And the riders at the front, the first 4 riders at the front, were all inside the lap record, as we said, as the grid formed up. And it's their chance, really, to make a break. But Hodgson's putting in some sensational laps. But he's got all the work to do now, because it's one thing catching these guys, but it's another thing passing them.
That is absolutely incredible. Number 52, James Toseland, is the Honda filling in the Ducati sandwich there. He is riding that SP1 VTR 1000 Honda brilliantly well, but not well enough to keep Hodgson at bay, because underneath the Honda goes Neil Hodgson. He's now got teammate Neil Mackenzie, number 7, firmly in his sights, and the wily old Scottish fox Mackenzie will not let him past easily. But does he have an answer for Neil Hodgson? 1 second inside his lap record he qualified at, and he gets his Ducati alongside and eases through. Up now along Lakeside Island Bend, they've just gone round now the right-hander, the Shell Oils hairpin. And through has gone Neil Hodgson. He is now up to 5th place. The Honda of James Toseland hanging on gamely behind Neil Mackenzie. And there, the GSE team boss, Colin Wright, anxiously with the rest of the pit crew, somewhat mesmerised by Neil Hodgson's performance.
Well, I'm not surprised, because Hodgson now has caught this leading quartet. There's something of a traffic jam here, because they don't know that Hodgson is this close, but now they do, because he's already got past James Hayden. That leaves Hislop, John Reynolds and Chris Walker, the leading man, for him to pass. It's absolutely remarkable that he's been able to catch these guys up. Now it looks as though that he's going to be able to go past them, Barry.
Well, Chris Walker's still leading, Hodgson closing in now on John Reynolds, but Steve Hislop, they've worked very hard on that Yamaha over the weeks that have gone by, and it's paying dividends. It is so good, and Steve Hislop knows full well that he's in with a chance of a win here. He's looking closely now in 2nd place at Chris Walker. We're riding with Chris Walker. Look at the angle of lean as they crank over Clay Hill. The next right-hander will be Druids under the bridge. It flashes past into the shadow of the trees. Still in 2nd place. Reynolds is in 3rd. Where is number 4, Neil Hodgson? Will he appear? Oh, he's really scrapping hard now. He's going past John Reynolds under the bridge up to 3rd place. It's Hodgson, but riding also hard with them is James Hayden. Hayden is forcing on as well. Hodgson relegated back to 4th. In 3rd place then, James Hayden. Look at them side by side over the line, and Hislop looking for the lead on the outside of Chris Walker. Hayden defending that 3rd place from Neil Hodgson. A sensational race, Roger.
It's an incredible race. A huge crowd here at Alton Park have come to watch this. It is a record crowd today, and they're not disappointed with this action. It's absolutely fantastic. These are the 5 guys at the front that were inside the lap record, and they're not disappointing in this race. As Hodgson comes up the inside now of James Hayden, no, there's no way through there. So Hodgson, like I said, it's one thing catching, but it's another thing passing.
Up to 2nd goes the number 5 Revy Racing Ducati of James Hayden. Steve Hislop being forced just a little bit wide as they go round the bend and down towards Fulston. Would you believe 130 miles an hour they're on that right-hander before they get to the chicane. Hayden then tucked in behind Walker, 2nd place. It's Hislop number 8 in 3rd. Still no, I think Neil Hodgson taking a bit of a rest, but he's getting 2nd wind and he's going for 3rd place and taking it. Up to 3rd goes Neil Hodgson. That Rob Frost, who is a stand-in for Shane Byrne on the number 16 Honda SP1, has dumped it on the grass, but the rider is fit and well. James Hayden leads the race. He is out in front. Hislop is behind Hodgson. Hodgson has just gone past Chris Walker into 2nd. They are scrambling all over the tarmac. I can't believe it.
Well, this is lap record stuff. Oh, and Walker was out of the seat there. He lost the back end. That should give Steve Hislop an advantage. We're on board with Walker looking backwards, but Hislop can't quite make it through at Island Bend. So Chris Walker recovered remarkably then, and Hodgson's taken the lead. So Hodgson now has gone from the back of the grid, from last place on the grid, to lead this race.
Well, we were talking just before the race, and it's only a few years ago that the lap speeds here were some 4 or 5 seconds slower than they are now. Such is the pace of the modern machinery, such is the determination and the physical agility of the riders, and none more so than the number 4, Neil Hodgson, leading this race, who has come from the back of the grid, passing 30 other riders to take the lead on lap 8 of 17. Look at the lead Hodgson has. Roger, this is a display indeed.
Well, sometimes it makes you wonder what a rider can do when they're absolutely pushed to the limit, and I think the fact that Hodgson was fired up to try and catch this bunch, he got such a faster pace throughout the whole race that when he caught them, he's passed them, and they've not upped their pace, and Hodgson's continued his, and that's how come he's got that lead. However, he came into the championship today with a 12-point deficit on John Reynolds, and obviously looking to make that up. There's a long way to go in the championship, but these 25 points, when you can get them, really do count.
It will move him ahead of John Reynolds in the championship standings. As they go through and up towards Lodge Corner on the last lap, on the right-hander of Lodge, Neil Hodgson already celebrating, but it's tooth and nail. Hayden in second, Hislop number 8 in third. John Reynolds is way off the pack in 5th, and it's Chris Walker in 4th, but Neil Hodgson gets the win. 17 laps the distance, a terrific and unbelievable result for Neil Hodgson. And that's the wheelie of the year, and there it is confirmed. Hodgson, Hayden, Hislop, John Reynolds, championship leader, has lost that lead now with 5th place, but a good ride by Toseland in 7th.
Yeah, it's all a bit of a blur, to be honest. You know, I knew it was going to be so difficult from there, and I just pushed so hard those 5 laps, and I couldn't believe that I got onto the back of them. Then I had a little bit of a rest, and then tried to get to the front, which I managed to do, and then it was easy once I got to the front. You know, the hard work was passing everybody. There were some wild and wonderful lines out there, and I had lots of moments early on. You know, I was pushing so hard, but thankfully, you know, I pulled it off, and I can't really believe I've done that.
Well, you might not be able to believe you've done it, Neil, but records fall all the time in this championship. But today, we've seen a new record set with a back-to-front victory by Neil Hodgson in round 13. The starter points to the lights. We're on board with Walker. Now, Walker is famous for his lightning starts. Let's see how he's going to do this time. And we're off. This is the rider's eye view down towards Old Hall Corner, and Walker's certainly made the whole shot, closely followed by Neil Hodgson, and Steve Hislop slotted in there third.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see just how hard Neil Hodgson pushes this time, because he hasn't nearly got the same amount of work to do that he did in round 13, having to ride absolutely out of his leathers for the first half of the race coming from the back of the grid. He's got away beautifully in second place. It's the number 4 Ducati I'm talking about, and as they head now towards Island Bend, the left-hander, after which will be the steeply banked right-hand Chelois hairpin, it's number 8 Steve Hislop in third place. There, number 4 Neil Hodgson in second, making fewer mistakes and determined to get a better result this time. Number 3 John Reynolds, and when I said making mistakes, he knows that 5th wasn't nearly good enough, because it dropped him to second place in the championship on 232 points. Hodgson leads the championship on 2, 3, 4, so the championship leader, number 4 Neil Hodgson, in second place. Steve Hislop there. James Hayden, number 5, in 5th. Race leader though, Chris Walker, must be thinking hard under that helmet, what the dickens do I have to do this time to keep that orange flying machine behind me?
Well, Chris is very good in early parts of races, not to say he's not good throughout the whole of the race. However, he specialises in getaway good, and he'll know that Neil Hodgson and co are strongly challenging behind him as they come now down to Lodge Corner. Now, tactics play a part in these races. As Ben Atkins there we see, that's John Reynolds' team owner and Roger Marshall team manager, look curiously at the screen, looking to see where their riders are.
And look at the race we've got on our hands now. I somehow think that Neil Hodgson is not under pressure. He's just sitting there watching the back end of Chris Walker. Suzuki has almost through into third place. Goes Steve Hislop, who is riding really well here today. He loves Alton Park and always goes well. And maybe even when we get to Knock Hill, which is the next round, of course, formerly home ground round for the Scotsman, who now incidentally lives in the Isle of Man, but of course he came from Hawick. He might even go better. It's a short circuit by the current day standards, nearly as short as Mallory Park, and we are there too, quite early on in the second half of the season. But still, it's Chris Walker, number 2. Reynolds now having that tooth and nail scrap for third place with Steve Hislop. But the first two, Hodgson and Walker, just beginning to break away as out of the action goes Steve Marks from Guildford. Fortunately, he's okay. Neil Mackenzie, number 7, Hodgson's teammate, retiring his Ducati. They certainly are going at it, so the team manager, or the team owner, Ben Atkins, must be practically pulling his hair out, because the riders can easily bring each other down. And this is Chris Walker. Where is Neil Hodgson? Walker staying tight. As Roger Burnett pointed out earlier in the commentary, he's got to ride defensively. The Shell Oil's hairpin. Beautifully sunny day. You can see the shadow hugging the white line. His knee at that point will be just skimming the rubble strip on the inside, just across the grass. 130 miles an hour, braking hard down towards Fulston chicane, and he's found just a little bit extra, I suspect, this time, Roger.
Well, he came alongside here, Chris Walker. This is Island Bend. You really need to be on the the right-hand side of the track to take that corner. It's a very fast corner, 150 miles an hour through there, so no risks to be taken there. And James Hayden goes wide, so Hayden there cut through on John Reynolds and went wide, so that's lost them a little bit of ground on these two leaders. The blue flags are out. The blue flags are out. We've got a slow rider coming through the chicane. And where's James Hayden and John Reynolds? And there they are, so they're line astern still.
Well, blue flags indicating to the tail enders that the fast men are coming through, and that's how quickly they come through. They absolutely rocket past the number 29, Jim Hodgson, the red and yellow Jim Hodgson now, and there he is, just tucking on the back of James Hayden. Again, the blue flags, more tail enders ahead of them. It's Chris Walker with Neil Hodgson. Oh, goodness me, we must not have deja vu here when they come up to Lodge Corner on the last lap. Hodgson surely will remember the episode last time here when he and Chris Walker came together. Very, very hard indeed. Goodness knows how Walker stayed on, but it was a dramatic finish. Walker also very well aware of that. Over the start line he goes again. Two completely different lines. Chris Walker staying tight. Neil Hodgson just sizing up the outside, away down the outside. Oh dear me! On the curve, Chris Walker hits the white line there and almost stepped off the Susie. And Hodgson going for the lead here. He's on the inside. No, not quite at Cascades. Now squirting up towards Island Bend they will go. They've exited Cascades on the last lap. Hayden in third. Hodgson going hard at Island. He's on the outside this time. Riding tightly, Chris Walker. Out they come. Hayden's gone wide. Reynolds in third again. Hugging the white line again, Chris Walker. He can hear that big 1000cc V-twin Ducati booming behind him as the 750 Suzuki 4 screams through Fulstons. Hodgson, Reynolds closer than he's ever been. Maybe just John Reynolds. Talk us through the last 100 yards before we get to the checkered flag, Roger. It's close.
Well, this is down to Knickerbrook. This is one overtaking place, but Hodgson's not close enough there. They now go up over Clay Hill. It's left-handed over here. Then we go into Druids Corner. Keep left, leap left. Now hard on the brakes, down to third gear, 100 miles an hour. Knee kissing the tarmac. A big effort out of here is needed if you're going to get alongside Chris Walker to pass him at this corner.
Big wiggles from the Ducati in fourth place. Big wiggles from the Suzuki in the lead. But a wonderfully defensive line from Chris Walker. Has Neil Hodgson's Ducati got the power as they punch over Deer Leap to the flag? It's a wave of the leg for Chris Walker on the Suzuki. Second place for Hodgson. So 25 points go to Walker. He is thrilled. John Reynolds got third. And the Suzuki boss, Paul Denning, could not be more pleased. And Walker celebrates in customary style with a massive burnout. Confirmation of that result. Unbelievable race. Just look how close they all were. Walker got the win. Hayden was fourth. Hislop was fifth. And Toseland a brilliant sixth. And talking of close, it's bunched the table up nicely, but Hodgson, the new championship leader from Reynolds. Walker now has his eyes clearly on the title with that ride, and it was the ride of a lifetime for Chris Walker. He came in with the win, and what a ride it was. We just hope then that Chris Walker has got his breath back.
I felt like I'd given it my all, but it just wasn't me, out in the first race, and I was disappointed with myself more than anything, not so much the result. And second race I was determined to make amends, and fortunately it paid off. Brilliant.
On the top of the podium, Chris Walker, and his face tells the story there. A hard day's racing here at Alton Park, and it's no coincidence that the top 3 riders on the podium are a top 3 in the championship.
Welcome to Knockhill, the centre of motorsport for Scotland, and as you can see the weather conditions are changeable to say the least. But in fairness, this is a circuit where sheer horsepower and top speed may not be quite so important. On the other hand, local knowledge and a good start could well be the deciding factor. There aren't that many passing places here at Knockhill, but this is one of them. It's called Dufferstip. As you can see, it's downhill and it's really quite narrow, and it's just after the start.
One local rider that will be here at Knockhill flying the Scottish flag is the very experienced Neil Mackenzie. He put together a stunning lap, 0.8 of a second under John Reynolds' lap record to take pole position, proving that the old magic is still there. Confirmation, Neil Mackenzie on that pole position, Chris Walker, James Hayden and championship leader Hodgson on the front row. John Reynolds, Crawford, Plater and privateer John Crockford gets on the second row. Sean Emmett, Rutter, Young and Brown row 3. Fourth row, Tom Kipp there, the American rider that's taking the place of James Toseland at this meeting.
So 1.3 miles per lap and a very, very bad start by number 7, Neil Mackenzie, who spun the back wheel. That helped Chris Walker. Walker has gone very hard, but James Hayden has taken the early lead. Number 5, James Hayden, with that injury to his right arm, in fact to his neck, causing a problem with his right arm, he hits the front. Walker number 2's gone with him. Where was Neil Hodgson? He did not get a good start, neither did his GSE teammate Neil Mackenzie, pole position man. Third place, John Crockford, number 56 on the Suzuki. Truly an amazing start from the second row by a privateer.
Yes, and it's an incredibly hard job getting the power down in these conditions. 160 brake horsepower on a wet track doesn't really match, but anyway, he's doing a great job there in third place. Michael Rutter right behind him on the Yamaha, and he comes down the inside, coming into the hairpin. Number 31, Michael Rutter, squeezes it down there, gingerly tipping it in its treacherous conditions. Neil Hodgson runs wide there at the hairpin, so things not going well there for the championship leader. But at the front, it's the Ducati, the number 5 Ducati of James Hayden leads Chris Walker.
Wet weather specialist number 31, Rutter, renowned for going well in these conditions. His teammate in the left-hand side, left of centre of your picture, Paul Young, number 96, going equally well. Looking forward now from Neil Mackenzie. You can see the wet weather on your visor. This was his start. Appalling.
It really is, and trying to put the power down is such a hard job. You can't hear your engine, you just have to look at the rev counter and squeeze the power on. It made the bike fishtail around. Chris Walker is getting away all the time at the front.
And that's the important thing. Number 3, John Reynolds, the man in your picture, came to Knockhill here in Scotland, 6 points adrift of the championship leader, and in front of this man, Chris Walker, in the championship, who was a further 15 points behind John Reynolds. So Walker was in third coming here, but he has now gone round setting the fastest lap. Has anybody told Walker it's wet out there? He's riding with careless abandon, throwing the Suzuki right and left. It's set up to be very, very nimble, and there's the team boss Paul Denning watching with something of an anxious face as Reynolds making a move now on Paul Young, looking for another place, Steve.
Yeah, John Reynolds had a look at the end of the straight. The crest arrives at around 150 miles an hour even in these wet conditions, but Reynolds is obviously quicker than number 96 there, Paul Young, but as I said, it's very difficult to pass. You can still see that drying line, and John Reynolds knows he's got to go round the outside. There's really only one line, and Young makes a mistake there. The rear end of that Yamaha starts to slide. That gives John Reynolds the perfect slingshot move down the inside. He's able to move off on the wet stuff, but he had the drive out of there. So they come out of this Clark corner now, down towards the back straight and up to the hairpin. John Reynolds has moved up another place.
Into fourth then. Runner-up in the championship position so far for Reynolds, but what he knows now is that he needs to get more points than championship leader Neil Hodgson, who is distinctly unhappy in these conditions, and that's why you haven't seen anything of Neil Hodgson. Such a contrast. Two fallers, David Heel, number 99, and David Wood. Marshall's lifting Davy Wood's bike up, so they have had a coming together at the hairpin. It's not difficult to do there. Dreadful conditions. Mackenzie, though, making a fight of it.
And he really is making a fight of it because he passes another rider there, number 22, Steve Plater on the Kawasaki. So Mackenzie now really working very, very hard. You can see that drying line all the time. It's getting quicker and quicker the whole time.
John Reynolds now going very, very hard at Michael Rutter, who's in third. So is it going to be third place here for John Reynolds? He's up the inside of Michael Rutter, approaching the hairpin. Reynolds makes a move on Rutter. He's on the gravel, and he's down. Reynolds is down. He has thrown away a rostrum position. He will be, Steve, distraught.
Yeah, well, he just ran in way too deep, and Dan squeezed the brakes too hard as he's cranking the bike over, ran onto the gravel. Fortunately for John Reynolds' motocross experience, he's kept the engine running. He's got that Ducati back and running now. He's probably damaged it a little bit. Here we go, into the corner. He's trying to brake as much as he can, but the bike's still leant over on the gravel. He had no chance whatsoever. Quickly gets the clutch in there. You can see him pulling the clutch in with his left hand, but keeps it running and he's back on the circuit. Meanwhile, back at the front, number 2 here, Chris Walker, looking very, very smooth. Walker's often said to be the wild man out on the circuit, but in these conditions, he's really smoothed his style down.
Well, it's no use talking about ifs, maybes and would have beens, but that would have put John Reynolds into a 16-point position. It's all come to nothing because he's not in the top 6. Though Chris Walker, number 2, is on his way to 25 points here, and he will eat. Oh, Hayden's been off. James Hayden has been off. So no wonder Roger Marshall was looking anxious. He had every reason to be anxious. Both his men have ended up in the gravel. Reynolds, we know, is going again. James Hayden, upset, disappointed, shaken, might just have hurt that right arm. Yes, he has. Neil Mackenzie giving the blue flags, the marshal to Dean Ellison. Get out of the way, there's a fast man coming. He's in 4th place. Number 7, Neil Mackenzie. Dean Ellison, a respectable ride, but he's about to be lapped by the former champion. Number 3, John Reynolds in 5th, but he can smell the exhaust fumes from Neil Mackenzie. He can smell 4th place. He knows he would desperately use the 13 points that he will get if he can wind in Neil Mackenzie, number 7, and he's got his head down. The bike apparently none the worse for that spill into the gravel. Looking very focused, John Reynolds. He's in 5th at the moment. 11 points will be his, provided he stays on, but he can go a little bit better. He can get 2 more points if he can wind in Neil Mackenzie. We are on the penultimate lap. Neil Mackenzie's in 4th. Ahead of him, it's Paul Young. Rutter's in 2nd, but the race leader, number 2 for Suzuki, is Chris Walker.
Chris Walker starting his last lap, crests the rise there, front wheel in the air, and he has a huge margin. He can just cruise this last single lap.
Yeah, it's a good cushion for Chris Walker. Number 36, Gordon Blackley on the Kawasaki with the pink crash helmet is ahead of him, but Chris will have to take no chances whatsoever. He can almost take his time to get past Blackley. Michael Rutter in 2nd place is well away, but 3rd place man Paul Young is coming under some pressure now from Neil Mackenzie, who's put Dean Ellison, the tail ender, between himself and John Reynolds. Just look at the style of Chris Walker. 25 points are his now, with half a lap of the Knockhill circuit remaining, and he has the comfort, if indeed he knows, that his arch rival and the former championship leader, well, still the championship leader, Neil Hodgson, is way, way down the order. Round the hairpin for the last time, up towards the start-finish, a great wheelie by Chris Walker. This one is his, a little nod and a wave to his pit crew. No one is better at thanking their pit crew than Chris Walker. Mackenzie's having a look at Young. Is he going to be on the rostrum here, the Scotsman? The crowd, the air horns are going. The crowd sense that Mackenzie might just do it. The Ducati punches over the hill. Young keeps the nose in front and just fights off Neil Mackenzie. It was that close. Oh, but a sigh of relief from Paul Young and a huge ovation for Chris Walker. Someone hands him the flag, as you see. He's got to be nearly did a Noriyuki Haga there and caught it in the back wheel. And those of you who saw Haga catch the flag in the chain at a World Superbike round know what I'm talking about. There it is, confirmation. Hodgson was 6th, but Walker got the win. Mackenzie 4th, Young and Rutter, the 2 Yamahas on the rostrum. A good ride in 8th place for the American Tom Kipp, first time in the UK standing in for Toseland.
I really did just try and make less mistakes than everybody else, you know, and kept away from the paint. I made a couple of mistakes, but fortunately they weren't too bad, and didn't lose too much time, and my board was kind of going up and down. I could tell that everyone was lapping at a similar pace once like the race had got going, so just kept my head down, and then all of a sudden everybody disappeared, so I figured somebody must have had a mishap, so that made it kind of worse in a way, because I got a big lead and I started to panic a little bit, but no, the lads sorted me out with a good bike and Dunlop sorted out some good rubber, so perfect.
Yeah, we think the same when we watch Chris Walker ride, but my goodness me, he showed the rest of the field a clean pair of heels. 15 races gone, 9 to go, and the sun is shining here. What a contrast. It's unbelievable. This will test the mettle of just about everyone. Let's see how Chris Walker, and in particular, pole man Neil Mackenzie, get away. This time, Mackenzie on the right of your picture. A much, much, much better start this time. But it's Chris Walker. Going with him is Neil Hodgson. He was no slouch this time. Up into the lead goes Neil Hodgson, number 4. He's a demon in the dry, and flicking it through into third place again. It's James Hayden. No, it's not. Mackenzie up the inside. It's a bit early in the proceedings to get this frantic, but these riders sense that with the track dry, conditions are a very different ball game indeed, and they do not intend to let Chris Walker, number 2 on the Suzuki, get away. Look at Mackenzie. Neil Mackenzie wants to make the most of that pole position. He must be ruining the day that it rained in the earlier race. Oh goodness me, Mackenzie's a dry weather man and he loves it, and he's going hard here in third place. But it's championship leader Neil Hodgson leading Chris Walker, who desperately needs to keep Hodgson in his sights.
Now this is the brave move from Neil Mackenzie on the second corner going into McIntyre's. He charges down the inside, late on the brake, passing James Hayden to move into third place.
But that gave the other two the opportunity to get away, and he's coming under pressure now from the team Revy Racing. Reynolds number 3, 5 James Hayden, and Crawford staying with them.
Yes, there John Reynolds went up the inside of his teammate. Neil Mackenzie definitely lost some ground when he ran wide, albeit he's still in third place, but this is where the battle is. It's been there all season. And there's the battle of the two teammates. Hayden goes back past John Reynolds on the number 3 machine. Now behind them, number 11, Crawford's not finished yet either. So they're charging through here, and at the moment there's obviously no team orders here because John Reynolds, second in the championship, could have been helped by number 5 there, but he wants to win the championship just as much. James Hayden is not theoretically out of the hunt for this championship.
Well, it's good to see there are no team orders coming into play. There's still a long, long way to go. As I say, there are still 8 races after this one, and Hayden, sitting in 4th place in the title standings, has every bit as much of a chance, or rather he feels that. Crawford looking at John Reynolds, a bold move by John Crawford, whose Suzuki blew up in a cloud of smoke in the first race, so he did not finish. He was out of the action. Look at Paul Denning and the Suzuki team. They've got 25 points in their pocket already so far. Their man Chris Walker is well and truly doing the business, but Neil Mackenzie riding like a man inspired in 3rd place behind Walker. He is so fast round here, he can almost do it with his eyes closed. I've been round here with him in a touring car at breakneck speed. Absolutely frightened me to death. This is vintage Neil Mackenzie. The sun is shining here. He knows he's closing in on Chris Walker. They're coming up now to the right-hander of Clark. Walker in 2nd, Mackenzie in 3rd. Getting the power down on the Ducati. Oh, getting the power down too much. He's into the tyre wall, Mackenzie. High-sided it. Yes, he's on his feet. Thank goodness for that. The marshals very quickly getting the bike out of the way. We do not want a red flag situation. Steve.
This is Clark Corner in 3rd gear, just as Neil tapped the power on it, spun out from behind him and flicked him over the handlebars. The chassis is wrecked, and they're going to wreck the engine as well if they don't get that motor stopped.
Well, that did John Reynolds a pile of good because he's chasing hard. Mackenzie now out of the reckoning. This is the battle for the lead. Hodgson leads Walker. Tail enders ahead of them. It's number 19, Dean Ellison, who is almost the filling in the sandwich. Walker goes up the inside, goes too wide. He momentarily passed Hodgson, nearly took Dean Ellison out, made him sit up. Hodgson, oh dear me, we've seen these two clash fairings all the way through the year 2000 season, and Chris Walker in 2nd place at the moment would dearly love the win. That, oh dear, David Wood, 2 races, 2 crashes. Yes, I know how you feel. Into the gravel went his fist, but Neil Hodgson now has gained himself a bit of breathing space.
And this is the bold move from Chris Walker down the inside. You see him go through the wet patch. I think he had to let the brakes off a little bit because of that. Hodgson goes back underneath him up the main straight there, but the race is back on, and it's been on all season. Chris Walker right behind those 2 big booming exhaust pipes from the number 4 Ducati.
Number 2, Chris Walker working the bike really hard. There are 2 laps to go after this one. Hodgson has earned himself the adoration of the fans since his fantastic World Superbike races at Donington Park and Brands Hatch. Chris Walker was always the crowd's favourite. He's on the inside. The crowd are on their feet. Chris Walker has taken the lead on as they go over this time, it'll be the penultimate lap. 2 laps to go. Chris Walker then Lap 27 of 28, 2.5 miles of Knock Hill. Has Neil Hodgson got an answer? Watch him shadowing his way. We said at the start of the programme there aren't that many passing places around here, Steve.
Well, that was a definite mistake from number 4 there, Hodgson. He went into the hairpin just a little bit too hot, left the door open. There was room for Chris Walker, and he doesn't need a second invitation. Now can Hodgson do anything about it? Chris Walker, we've seen him be fast round here. He's lost ground, then he's caught up. It looked like he was the quicker rider on the circuit. Now let's see if Hodgson has any answers. Walker's got his head buried under the screen, and here we go. Watch Hodgson move out a little bit too wide there. Thank you very much, says Mr. Walker. In first gear, coming out the hairpin, he pulls himself up to the front of the bike, keeping that front wheel down. It's no good pulling wheelies at this point, Chris. You need to keep going with the front wheel on the road, and he does, and he comes in, the rear wheel's off the ground as he comes into Duffer Stiff, braking so hard as the front of that bike pitches down. Chris Walker is really on it at this lap.
Well, it's as dry as a bone. That everyone was on slicks, of course. What a contrast to the first race conditions. And I truly expected Neil Hodgson to romp away with this one, but I reckon without the tenacity. Number 99, David Heel, the privateer, about to be lapped. Will he be lapped? I don't know. He might just hold them off to the flag. And that means, of course, he has to do one more lap of his own. But coming up now along Railway Straight towards the hairpin, Chris Walker is getting the air horns, he's getting the crowd on their feet, the checkered flag is in sight, so are the 2 privateers ahead of him, but no worries for Chris Walker. A double victory here at Knock Hill for Chris Walker, sensational stuff. That has handed him a handsome amount of points in his chase for the championship. Average 91.25, much quicker than the wet.
And far more enjoyable for Chris Walker and, in fact, the crowd as Neil Hodgson goes past. A little disappointed, I would have thought, with that second place. But Chris Walker is saying number 2's going to be number 1.
Well, there's the confirmation of the win. Hodgson, runner-up, of course, led for 26 of the 28 laps. A personal best for John Crawford in 5th place there. So Chris Walker's teammate brings the other Suzuki home. Look how close it is. 1 point between Chris Walker and Hodgson, and Reynolds at 272, still very much in touch, but he'll need to lift his game. While in 9th place, Honda teamster James Toseland won't improve on 101 because he's out injured for the rest of the season.
All weekend I said to the boys it's going to be down to who makes the least mistakes really, and I made a few mistakes early on. Neil pulled away, he got held up with the back markers a little bit, and that did me a bit of a favour, and then I just kind of plugged away, and I thought if he said +0 on his board, sooner or later he was going to run wide, and 2 laps to go, he did, perfect.
Well, Chris Walker and Neil Hodgson looking very happy, but the man that's missing from the rostrum is John Reynolds. He's slipping back in the points, but there's still a lot of races to go yet.
Cadwell Park really is a circuit of 2 parts. Behind those trees are the wide, fast, flowing bends of the parkland area, but it's at this point here where the fun really begins. This is the approach to the woodland section, and in particular, the famous Cadwell Mountain. The riders are still doing 135 miles an hour on the approach before they go down into 2nd gear, brake hard, flick it left, flick it right, and then muscle 165 kilograms of Superbike over the brow of the hill before tearing off into the woods. At racing speeds, it's impossible to keep both wheels on the tarmac.
Well, the top 6 in qualifying were inside the existing lap record, with the revamped barn corner adding 3 metres to the length of Cadwell Park. David Jeffries is the sole official Yamaha rider standing in for the injured Paul Brown, and of course no Steve Hislop, still recovering from his crash. Shane Byrne returns after the injury he sustained at Snetterton in June.
Round 17 laps ahead of them, the 2.17 mile circuit here at Cadwell Park. A total race distance of 36.9 miles, and away they go, and the customary start from Chris Walker. It's the whole shot as they go into Coppice. Chris Walker leads. Number 4, Neil Hodgson tucked in behind. A good start by the front row man James Hayden, both of the Team Revy Racing Ducatis. Front row and good start. Reynolds is in 4th, but it's Walker leading. Hayden's 3rd, Reynolds 4th. The field stringing their way now along Park Straight up towards the right-hander of Park. And this is a very, very tight bend, and it doubles up as they go along a little short straight here, then squirt it again into Chris curve. This taken in third gear, heading off now as they exit this down toward the gooseneck. But a good start in brilliant sunshine here in front of a full house in terms of spectator value at Cadwell. Walker leads, the rear end sliding. Roger, he's got to go pretty steadily in these early stages, otherwise cold tyres and all that, yeah?
Well, this is the approach now to the bottom of the mountain. Chris got the back end a little bit loose from Mansfield. This is into the bottom of the mountain. You'll see now the front wheel. Look at the bike leap off the track there. Fabulous pictures. We're getting into Hall Bends. Second gear, 70 miles an hour, 75 now, 80. Back down the gearbox to first gear for the hairpin. This is out of the hairpin, then to second gear. Look at the acceleration of the Suzuki out of their barn corner. This is the reconfigured barn corner. We said it had added a short distance to the track, but it's certainly made it safer as they come through the start and finish to complete the first lap.
Well, it was noticeable out of barn corner that the race leader, number 2, Chris Walker, accelerated really, really well. He got the drive on the Suzuki out of barn and pulled away from the Ducati of Neil Hodgson coming onto the straight. If that's going to be a characteristic lap by lap, then of course it will be vital as they come out of barn for the final time on the sprint down to the flag. But Reynolds, in your picture, the 4th place man, number 3, John Reynolds, making a move for 3rd. He came here 12 points adrift of the championship leader Neil Hodgson, and that's his teammate James Hayden ahead of him, and Reynolds was leading Hayden by 41 points coming here, so obviously Reynolds, number 3, has got to get past the number 5 Ducati, who took an enormous wiggle, James Hayden, as I said the words. So Reynolds knows what he's got to do. It's very warm here, very sticky on track. We're on board with Chris Walker looking back at the championship leader.
Hodgson there very fast into the bottom of the mountain. Watch the bike go airborne at the top, and it did. Past the cafe there on the right hand side into Hall Bends. Now this is the difficult part of the track, I would say. A single line through here, very difficult to overtake before going down to first gear for the hairpin, then up to second, and then into barn corner. 80 miles an hour on the exit of here, and the riders now come through onto the start and finish to get the messages from the pit boards. Do you see there? Before going up to 6th gear, back to 4th gear for Coppice. This is very fast corner indeed, 120 miles an hour, then right into Charlie's. You can't see the second part of Charlie's, which we can see now from the entry point, and that poses a difficulty for these Superbike riders as Hodgson gets extremely well tucked down under the bubble there. Maximum slipstream effect up the straight to Park Corner.
Well, these 4 are getting away, but in 5th place and hanging on very well in 5th place is former champion number 7 Neil Mackenzie, and he's got the opportunity here at Cadwell to improve his championship standings because the man in front of him in the championship, Steve Hislop, is not competing, still carrying that injury from his World Superbike crash at Brands Hatch. So we have 2 GSE Ducatis in the top 5, 2 Team Revi Racing Ducatis in the top 5, and out in front the lone Suzuki of Chris Walker. Walker at Charlie's, driving, and a big move, the rear end of the Suzuki let go, that's allowed Neil Hodgson to close, and now he smells the lead, takes it on the left hand side up towards Park, but Walker's a demon on the brakes. Is he going to hold Hodgson off? No, he isn't. Neil Hodgson, championship leader, is now race leader of round 17, and Chris Walker will be kicking himself for that. He knows he's made a mistake. Also John Reynolds, number 3, has closed, and the order they're now in the championship. Hayden's down. Hayden is down as well. Now that's Park. John Reynolds in a 16-point position at the moment. Came here with a 12-point deficit. Needs to improve on that 3rd place. And Roger, he's closing.
Well, he's closing, but there's very little time left because this is through now to start the last lap, and Chris Walker will know that, Neil Hodgson will know that, and John Reynolds will. And John Reynolds is likely to settle for that 3rd place, knowing that Walker and Hodgson are capable of getting into a last lap fracas, as we've seen on several occasions this year so far. But this time Hodgson looks like he's probably got clear of Chris Walker, and Chris probably hasn't got an answer at this stage for him.
No, the gap now 5 or 6 machine lengths at Park, and then squirting along the back to Chris curve. Chris Curve taken in third, heading down towards the gooseneck, which is a very, very steep off-camber downhill drop. They go left into the gooseneck, flick out through the bottom, and then away down the hill towards Mansfield, second gear corner. This is where Chris Walker is very quick, and this is where he closes. And look over the shoulder from Neil Hodgson. Tail enders ahead of them, and that looks like Dave Redgate, number 35. Yes, it is. It's Dave Redgate. Is he going to get in the way of Neil Hodgson? Over the mountain goes Hodgson. He's clear of Redgate. Walker now has to get past the tail ender. Oh no, he is stuck behind Dave Redgate, number 35. That's given Neil Hodgson the advantage. A shake of the head from Suzuka's Chris Walker. A wistful shake of the head. He knew he had an opportunity there, and I won't say he blew it, but that opportunity was taken from him as Neil Hodgson gets the checkered flag, jubilant in victory, left hand in the air, and the air horns here at Cadwell sound. A fantastically supportive crowd, and he has to be delighted with that one. I'm very sorry, mate, says Dave Redgate. Don't worry, said Chris, we've got one more race to go. Well, confirmation with a stunning wheelie and a stunning win by Neil Hodgson. Walker, Reynolds third, Mackenzie fourth place. That will do his championship standings the world of good. It's a personal best for John Crawford in fifth, and a great return by Shane Byrne in seventh.
Felt like I had a lot to prove today, and one down, one to go. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I got into the lead and it started to drizzle a little bit, and very, very off-putting, as you can imagine, but you know, Chris pushed me hard and he rode really well, and I'm just pleased for myself and the team.
There's a natural grandstand here at Cadwell, a grass hill that accommodates about 3,000 people, and there's not an inch of grass to be seen. Neil Hodgson sharing his champagne with those spectators in the front row. And look at the crowd. 35,000 they reckon came into the event, and the police estimate they turned away a further 12,000 who simply could not get in. Round 18, and although Chris Walker said the sun is out, it has rained very heavily between the races, and there are some extremely damp patches. And of course, Cadwell Park in the wooded section, you can see the water on the circuit for yourself. There's a dry bit here, of course, because it drains well, but once they get back into the wooded area, under the trees, it's going to be extremely slippery. They are all on slick tyres. They have no choice because the sun is burning. And Neil Mackenzie had a problem. He's starting from pit lane on the spare bike. He's just on the straight, and they're already at park. So Neil Mackenzie, fourth in round 17, is half a lap adrift of the front runners as they get underway for the second race here. And it's Chris Walker again who's got the whole shot, and he is now drawing away. He knows full well that hunting him down will be Neil Hodgson again. A better start by Steve Plater, fourth for number 22 on the Kawasaki, fifth in qualifying, fourth in this round 18 start. Can Steve Plater, I wonder, hang on to it? Here he is.
On board with Steve Plater off the start. Look at the spray coming off the wheels of James Hayden and John Reynolds as we approach Coppice Corner. Reynolds looked like he got boxed into me there on the left-hand side of the screen. But Neil Hodgson looks like he's got the conditions under control now, and he's started to attack and go after Chris Walker. He knows that he can't let Chris get away because the championship is between these two, and they battled in the earlier race today, and it looks like we're going to have a repetition of that in this race. But the circuit in fabulous condition. The circuit staff at Cadwell Park have all worked exceptionally hard to make sure that the circuit is in the condition that it's in, and to try and get the spectators in. And for those spectators that have not been able to get in today, we do apologise, but Hodgson nearly lost the back end there. That's a sign of just how slippery it is, Barry. I do think that he got on the white line there on the inside.
Well, it's an altogether tricky circuit, and one young man who's spectating here today, James Toseland, who was the leading Honda championship runner until he broke his leg here a month ago at Cadwell Park testing. I just wonder if we'll see Toseland back on a bike before the end of the season. I hope so, because he was getting better and better and better on the SP1. And one man who is going quicker and quicker and quicker around here is James Hayden, chasing hard in third, holding off the challenge from Steve Plater, who's in a personal best position in fourth place. We've just had a note up here in the commentary box, in fact, that Neil Mackenzie's problem was that he fell off, he crashed in the wet on the warm-up lap and is actually out on his spare bike.
Well, that could be the reason for Mackenzie. We notice his lap times are quite slow. He's out on the spare bike, probably got a little bit shaken by the fact that he came off on the warm-up lap. So But Hodgson's right on the back of Chris Walker, and this is an identical copybook move to the one that he made on Walker in the earlier race today, and that was as a consequence of Chris making a mistake at Charlie's Bend and Neil Hodgson getting a much better drive. And those bikes are different. Hodgson's riding the Ducati, the V-twin, the big 996 Ducati on bike 4, and Chris Walker the 4-cylinder inline Suzuki 750cc. So those are the rules, but the characteristics of these bikes are completely different.
And doesn't Chris Walker work it hard? Look, he moves all over the bike from right to left. He's hanging on it. He really wrings its neck at every opportunity. He knows full well now that what he cannot afford to do is let number 4 Neil Hodgson stretch a gap. There might be an opportunity in the closing stages because, and another big rear end loose job by Neil Hodgson when he came over the top there. Not the happiest of places for him in the woods here. Hayden is close. Steve Plater hanging on really, really well in 4th place, so we have a battle for 3rd, and this, the overtaking move, as Roger Burnett said, neatly by on the left-hand side. Well, there will be tail enders coming into play, as I said. It's simply a question of where they meet them. They would far prefer to catch them on the wide open sections. There you can see the top 5. Who's running in 6th should be John Crawford, number 11, I suspect. He's having a very good ride on the Suzuki, but the little gritty Scotsman would have preferred to have been going quicker earlier on in the season. I think it's taken him longer to adapt to the Superbike. Double 600cc champion John Crawford. Look how close Chris Walker is now in 2nd place. He's not letting Neil Hodgson get away. James Hayden riding remarkably well in 3rd, and now we have a 3-man scrap for the lead, and we have a 2-man scrap at the moment for the championship lead. Even if Chris Walker were to get past Neil Hodgson, he could not head him in the championship, but they would go home in exactly the same position that they came here in, just 1 point separating them. That will be on Chris Walker's mind. Out over the pit wall will be his board, telling him exactly what he's got to do. He has never been as close as this. Is there going to be an opportunity? Down to Barn, onto the new tarmac, squirting out again. It's a wider dry line now, but it's just on the exit of the corner. They've got to stay off the white stuff, of course.
Well, onto the final lap now, so it's now or never, and Chris Walker's lining up Neil Hodgson. Sparks coming off the Suzuki. He's trying on the inside. Hodgson chopped across the front of Chris Walker, and in my book, Chris nearly fell off the side of the bike there, lost the back end again. Look how much ground he's lost in one corner, and it's going to be very difficult now for him to get back at Hodgson.
Well, Chris Walker must be thinking, that's it, it's all over. Half a lap left now of Cadwell Park. It's going to be a double here for Neil Hodgson unless something goes dramatically wrong. The surface is almost 100% dry. This will suit the Ducati rider more and more and more. Similarly, John Reynolds now well placed in 4th, pushing on, but the gap now 3, 4, maybe 5 bike lengths as they go down into Mansfield, and there are tail enders, whether they will catch the back markers or not before the checkered flag. They're on them already. Hodgson is on them. It looks like Dave Redgate again, and Mackenzie's in there. That's Hodgson's teammate, number 7 Neil Mackenzie is about to be lapped, but Hodgson is queuing behind him. He cannot afford to take his time. No, he can't. Walker's coming. Walker's on the he's got past Hodgson. He's on the inside, Chris Walker. Neil Hodgson fighting back, but it's Walker. Is Walker going to get through the other tail enders? He's got 2 ahead of him. He's got to squirt it away now towards the checkered flag. Moves over to make sure, and Walker has got it. What a sensational result. It's 1 race apiece, and the championship stays just 1 point separating these two. What an unbelievable result, and a good 3rd place by James Hayden. An abundance of mutual respect and affectionate patting there from the leading trio, and that is the confirmation. Reynolds indeed did get 4th from Plater, Emmett, Rutter and Young, the top 8. And what has that done to the championship? Well, as I say, there's only 1 point. 329 needs 328. It's the Hodgson-Walker Roadshow. Reynolds 27 points adrift of Walker in 3rd place, so he's got some work to do as we go to Mallory Park for the next 2 races. Shane Byrne enhanced his 14th place a little bit, and good luck to him for the future.
I saw another orange Ducati and I thought, oh no, not 2 of them. And fortunately for me, they didn't play a bad part, you know, they kind of helped out a bit. Just like Neil in the first race, the back markers sometimes go your way, sometimes go the other. So, no, I mean, really, really chuffed. I never gave up. I tried to get him into Charlie's and I actually lost a lot of ground, and I thought, well, it's all over. But I could see the back markers up on the distance, and I thought, keep your head down, keep your head down. Unfortunately for me, it paid off.
Well, we're here at Mallory Park for rounds 19 and 20 of the British Superbike Championship. I normally like to take a look at a particularly difficult bit of the track, but this week I'm going to take a look at the whole track on the back of an R1 Yamaha ridden by the new boy in the Yamaha team. Let's go! Great stuff. Well, that was Mallory Park like I've never seen it before. It really was exhilarating. So, who was my mystery rider? Who is the new boy in the Yamaha team? Well, it's none other than World Superbike winner and GP racer Anthony Gobert.
Well, Neil Hodgson posted the GSE team's 7th consecutive pole position with a blistering time there ahead of Walker, Reynolds and Hayden. The top 14 riders were within 1 second round this 1.3 Mallory Park circuit. On row 3, an unfamiliar sight there, Neil Mackenzie, with Sean Emmett Crawford and Crockford, and Paul Young, Craghill, Wood and Kip rounding out the 4th row.
And Neil Hodgson got a terrific start on the right-hand side of your picture, the number 4 Ducati. Going with him, though, hard, Chris Walker, and we're looking back now from Chris Walker at Neil Hodgson. So Chris Walker on the Suzuki has grabbed the lead going into Gerrard's. Hodgson number 4 in 2nd, then it's Hayden, the lap record holder, in 3rd. A brilliant start by number 22, Steve Plater on the Kawasaki. He's in 4th. Also showing well, number 16, Shane Byrne. Good to see Shane Byrne going so well, newly back, and a big wiggle from Plater's number 22 Kawasaki. Reynolds is in 5th place. Chris Walker, number 2, leads at the hairpin, first time round. Look how tightly they're bunched. No sign yet of the Australian Anthony Gobert, but he started way down the order, qualified in 18th place, so clearly he's got a massive job to do. Meanwhile, 6 points adrift in the championship. Chris Walker leads the championship leader, Neil Hodgson.
Well, it's 28 laps round this 1.3 mile circuit, so at the moment the riders really getting the tyres all working and settled in. You'll notice where the change in the tarmac surface there is at the exit of Gerrard. The bikes wiggle a bit, that's normal. They're squirting the power on out of there as hard as they can before coming down to the S's, 90 miles an hour through here. This is the part of the circuit where we're going to see some action into this very tight hairpin. You can see all the way down to 1st gear, the slowest part on the circuit, before up to 2nd through this bus stop chicane. You could see flames then on the corner of the screen out of the exhaust of Chris Walker's bike.
And that is John Crockford. That's the Privateer Championship leader, has taken a tumble as well. Now, where is that? He's come, going into the S's. John Crockford losing it, going into the S's. He stretched that gap now to something like 5 or 6 machine lengths, but we know only too well where Neil Hodgson is quick. He's very quick through the S's. He is aggressive to the point of mania up towards the hairpin, and he really closes Chris Walker down as they go into the hairpin and the bus stop chicane. Now, which side is he going to go? He's looking left, wide in, tight out. Is that the way? The Ducati punches out of here. It's got more bottom end torque. This is where he gets right on the back of Chris Walker. There it is. You can't get much closer than that.
Well, John Reynolds is starting to creep back into the frame. You can see him at the back of the picture there on bike number 3. So these two are going to have to be slightly careful because Reynolds can catch them. Reynolds is a capable rider. He's very capable of putting lap record times in. And Hodgson now is right on the back of Walker. Let's just look and see if he can get a better drive onto the straight.
Tucked in behind the slipstream, moves out wide, going to go round the outside into the Lake S's. No way through, said Chris Walker. He's riding a defensive line, which is maybe not the fastest line, and could possibly give the 3rd, 4th and 5th place men an opportunity to move up. This is a shot of Neil Hodgson taking a look at the outside. This the battle there between Steve Plater, number 22, James Hayden, number 5, and ahead of them, Hayden's teammate John Reynolds is now well away. Oh, round the outside goes Hodgson. That was unbelievably brave at the S's. I said he was a demon going into there, and he is. That almost caught me unawares. It certainly caught Chris Walker unawares, because he is now 2 on the bike, 2nd in the championship, 2nd in the race.
Well, that was an unbelievable move by Hodgson. Let's just see if we can see what happened. It looks like the exit speed from Gerrard's there. Walker moves over to take a defensive line, and Hodgson, with a very, very brave manoeuvre all the way around the outside, and took the advantage.
Sensational stuff by Neil Hodgson. Well, this is his best year ever. We've said it before and I'll say it again. He really is in unbeatable form in the year 2000 season. What a bright future Neil Hodgson has ahead of him. And ahead of him also, he has number 69, Steve Marks, one of the tail enders. And hopefully Steve Marks will be aware that they are coming. He should do, because he's about to have an almighty surprise. Are they going to go either side of him? No, they're not. He tucks neatly. He knew they were there. Well done, Steve. Out of the way. Hodgson, though. Walker got the Suzuki in a huge shake as he got the power on as early as he dare. He is now really fighting back. He never gives up. Chris Walker on the inside at the hairpin. Walker, everything that's happened this season must have flashed through Chris Walker's mind there. The temptation to run on into that bend, Roger, must have been enormous.
Well, Chris Walker there surprised me, because I thought he was going to stick it up the inside of Hodgson at the hairpin. Maybe he's saving it because this is the last lap that they're on now. But yeah, he withheld himself and showed restraint.
Well, we've seen them come together more than once this year, and that would have been a carbon copy move had Chris Walker kept on going on the Suzuki, but he didn't. Davey Wood now, the next of the tail enders, about to be relegated on the last lap, and it doesn't take very long. They're lapping here in 47 and a bit seconds round the Mallory Park circuit. Davey Wood, very well aware they're out of the way, so he stays wide. Chris Walker's now got to fire the Suzuki up through the bus stop chicane. Hodgson riding defensively, tucking his knee on the curb. Davey Wood might just get out of the way in time. Yes, he does. They're on the inside, and away they go over the line. A massive wheelie. Neil Hodgson extends that championship lead. Confirmation of the result. Hodgson, Walker, Reynolds got 3rd. Plater, as I said, a best ever 4th place. And the existing lap record holder, James Hayden, in 5th.
Yeah, it was a really good race for me. I think I pulled out a little bit of a better package than Chris. He seemed to be struggling for grip a bit more than me. Just pleased it's over with. Good race. Looking forward to the second one.
What a consummate professional Neil Hodgson is. A calculated and clinical win.
Started their points to the lights, and the revs go up. You see Chris Walker there twitching the throttle. He's got his fingers on the front brake. Blip, blip, blip with the right hand. Look, and off he goes. Walker gets lightning starts. Let's see how he's done this time. And he's not disappointed, as it's Walker that's going to take the advantage as they peel right-handed into Gerrard's, and it's Reynolds this time that's right behind him. Hodgson back in 3rd, James Hayden in 4th, Steve Plater in 5th.
Well, 2nd place, number 3, John Reynolds, has taken us at our word, and certainly he knew he had to do something special this time. He's got the start, that's for sure. We know for a fact John Reynolds likes riding in clean air. He likes to get clear of the traffic, get out there and do his thing. There's only one person stopping him from leading the race currently, and that's number 2, Chris Walker, yet to be beaten away from the lights almost this year. He has been terrific. I just wonder how quickly he gets away from the traffic lights when he's driving on the streets. His reactions are lightning quick. The Suzuki bites, we know he's hard on the clutch, because as you saw Roger Burnett talking him through, and this is the start again, looking back from Chris Walker, number 22 on the green Kawasaki is Steve Plater. There's Neil Hodgson left in the dust. There is John Reynolds, and established firmly in the lead Chris Walker. Hayden is on the inside of Neil Hodgson, so James Hayden has grabbed 3rd place. He's in the wheel tracks of his Team Remy Racing teammate John Reynolds, 3rd in the championship. Fourth in the championship, James Hayden. Championship leader Neil Hodgson is still in fourth. A brave ride by number 22, Steve Plater, who is hanging on to the leading quartet miraculously and admirably. He is doing a terrific job here. Round the long sweeping Gerards they go, up through the gearbox into top gear on the Stebby straight, and they will go down to fourth at this point, braking from 150 miles an hour. It's Hayden in third, Hodgson in fourth, number 2 Chris Walker leads, John Reynolds in second, and in third place James Hayden. And remember, coming into this Mallory Park meeting, James Hayden was the quickest man round here. He's the existing lap record holder before the event, so he obviously knows Mallory Park very well. But is he going to interfere in the nicest possible way with John Reynolds' quest to consolidate his championship position?
Well, this is a fairly slow start to this race. We're a third of the way through, but Chris Walker seems to be holding the rest of them up because he may have tyre grip problems because Plater's been able to catch them up. Now let's look this time as they exit Gerards, and John Reynolds has got a really good drive. He's going one side and Hayden's going the other, but no, it's John Reynolds has got through. He's ahead of Chris Walker.
New race leader, number 3, John Reynolds, and it's not insignificant that John Reynolds won the second race here last year in 1999 at this very event, as Chris Walker takes a bold move around the outside. Look at Steve Plater sitting there waiting to pick up the pieces. Still it's John Reynolds leading. Walker in second, Hayden in third. I was about to say Hayden won the first race last year, Reynolds took the second race. The best Chris Walker could do 12 months ago was a couple of third places. He's now in second. So he was second in the first race, he's second in this one. Is he going to lose out to yet another Ducati with a different number on the front? John Reynolds then riding really well, looking towards getting those 25 bar stoppage. Red flags, there is an incident somewhere on the circuit. Oh dear me, that is Marty Craggle's Kawasaki. Chris Walker goes in pole position, and there he is on the right hand side of your screen, alongside him Reynolds. Then it's Hayden, and final man on the front row in fourth place, Neil Hodgson. The lights go green again. It's Chris Walker, his third start of the day. Is it going to be his third whole shot of the day? Yes, it is. Walker first into Gerards. It's Hayden this time, number 5, who's grabbed second place. Reynolds goes with him. He'll feel a little bit cheated, a little bit aggrieved that he was out in front at the stoppage. Now at the restart he's been shoved down into third by his teammate. No love lost there in the nicest way. There is always a great deal of competitive instinct, Roger, is there not, between teammates?
Well, all these guys actually get on off the track, but when they're all on their bikes with their helmets on, they obviously all want to win. And it's the same 4 as we've got at the front. In fact, the same 5 as we had at the front, just in slightly different orders with the 2 Rev A bikes, reversed positions. But James Hayden is a difficult man to overtake, and John Reynolds is going to have to pull something out of the bag to get ahead of his teammate when James Hayden's got his head down and he can see that win, illustrious win ahead of him, then he's likely to go for it.
Chris Walker, number 2, leads. They are all over him, almost contact there. He swung wide into the late guesses. That Hayden was really making an attack on the outside. He's all at sea as a result. Reynolds is back up into second place, the place he rightfully considers, I suspect, to be his. Hodgson, meanwhile, still in fourth and growing more discontent by the minute.
That was an incredible move because James Hayden here, look, he's coming alongside Chris Walker. You can see he's coming down the outside of him. Chris Walker moves to the defensive line, then swings back across and actually touches James Hayden's bike. That puts Hayden wide and almost off the track. And this is the last lap.
Well, the temptation, of course, is always to get the power on too early. He's on the inside at Gerards, and up into third place in this race goes Neil Hodgson. But I remind you just very quickly, before we come round to complete the lap, this will be on adjusted time. The times from the first and second parts of this race will be added together, and Neil Hodgson is actually not doing himself a lot of good here. Hayden is fighting back, and they are shaking all over the track. They're after the same bit of tarmac, obviously, but meanwhile, while these two are scrapping, Chris Walker ahead of them. Look at the rear end of James Hayden's Ducati. There are back markers ahead. Is he going to try a last-ditch stand on Hodgson again, going into the closing stages? Through the bus stop go Walker and Reynolds. Hodgson still in third, Hayden still in fourth, and it's Walker on his way, takes the win. Chris Walker takes the win. Reynolds will be thrilled with that. We'll have to see where they shake down on adjusted time, but in my book, Chris Walker has lifted the round 20 victory here at Mallory Park. confirmation then of that result. Walker indeed took the win from Reynolds. Hayden, Hodgson in fourth, so just 13 points from that race. Plater pipped Crawford, must have passed him on the last lap. I didn't see that happen, but another good result for Steve Plater on the Kawasaki. Well, there it is. Chris Walker leads the championship for the first time by 6 points. John Reynolds has consolidated his third place. James Hayden still with a mathematical chance of winning it.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I've been struggling a bit this weekend. I've had to ride really defensively there. You probably saw that. I was just struggling for a bit of grip on the exit of Gerrard's, and the guys have got the legs on me down the back straight, so trying to make myself as wide as possible down towards the Esters. But no, I mean, it paid off in that race. I'm really, really chuffed. And I mean, the guys, they worked so hard to try and make the bike better for the second race, and we kind of got a second chance when it got stopped. So fair play to the boys. Thank you.
You could be forgiven for thinking I'm sitting on Brighton Beach, but you can't blame me for taking the last of the summer sun. It looks like Brighton Beach and it actually feels like Brighton Beach, but it is in fact the gravel trap on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch. It's deep, it's very, very deep, and it has to be, because when the tidal wave of superbikes comes over that hill, if any one of them goes adrift, this gravel hopefully will stop them hitting that fence, just as it stopped Steve Hislop earlier this year in the World Superbike Round.
Well, qualifying took place in perfect conditions, and Chris Walker and Neil Hodgson, the two championship contenders, first and second on the grid, followed by Reynolds, third in the championship, and teammate Hayden there on the front row. Mackenzie, very good in qualifying on the second row. On the third row there you can see Rutter, Emmett Crawford and Anthony Gobert. Don't be surprised if it's wet, if Anthony Gobert doesn't spring a surprise. On row 4, Craggill, Harris, Young and Wood.
It's a damp track all the way round the circuit, so watch Chris Walker there, first time pole position for number 2, but alongside him Neil Hodgson, and it could well be that the Ducatis get the grip, but Hodgson did not get a particularly good start. James Hayden got his Ducati in the second place, but it was Chris Walker again, another one of those electrifying starts. The number 2 Suzuki leads, number 5 James Hayden on the Ducati in second place, but it is very, very wet and treacherous and slippery out there. Some of the riders have opted to use slick tyres, but the majority have gone for intermediates or indeed full wets, and well, they might need full wets because it's getting darker and darker, but Chris Walker's down! Chris Walker, the championship leader, is down and out of round 21 here at Brands Hatch.
Well, it looked to me that the back end turned then, and I would imagine, looking at the bike as it was laid down, that he had a cut rear slick, and that was polished on one side. He got on the wet part of the track, and down it went, and the back end came round. But Chris, it looks like he's probably getting back in the race, so this is good news for the fans and good news for his points championship. This is the instant. You can see the back end just comes round as he leans the bike over. There's a slippery part of the track there, a different surface, and it's caught him out.
Well, Neil Hodgson had a front row seat to witness that. He was sitting in third place when Chris Walker slid off. Mercifully, Walker was sufficiently far in front not to collect anyone. James Hayden then now in second, but Neil Hodgson came here trailing by 6 points in the championship for the first time this season, and he now is in a race-winning slot, but it's getting darker and darker and darker. But Neil Hodgson in third place, number 22, the Kawasaki, the green Kawasaki of Steve. Walker's blown up, so that bike was damaged when he went down, Roger. Any idea what that might have been?
Well, when a bike goes on...
behind that fairing that's the fiberless part of the bike, anything can get damaged or trapped. There must be something. We're expecting to see what worse surface. Looking like running up through and Walker parked by the side of the track. His race is over.
ever, and I just dread to think, I can't imagine what's going on in that man's head at the moment. He's seen it all slip away, literally in front of his eyes. Down he went, he's out of the race, but pressing hard now, in second place, Steve Plater from Lincolnshire. He's been getting better and better and better since his mid-season spate of crashes when he knocked himself about quite badly on the Kawasaki. Look at the sky, it can only get worse, Roger.
I can't begin to tell you how difficult the surface is as Plater takes the lead up the inside of Neil Hodgson into Druitt's corner. So now Steve Plater's in the lead. I can see that the rear tyre on Plater's bike looks like a rear slick. Now if it does happen to rain, then that's going to be a problem for him. But let's not forget that this race started as a wet race, which means that if it does rain, they are not compelled to stop it.
Well, this is the first time that Steve Plater has led a British Superbike round, and he's doing it in good style. But of course, Neil Hodgson will know now that his arch rival and chief adversary, and there he is, Chris Walker, very, very dejected Chris Walker. Hodgson will know that he's out of the race, so he also knows that Steve Plater, from a points standpoint, is absolutely no threat to him at all. The danger man is John Reynolds, and there is John Reynolds. Oh, it's raining really, really heavily now on that part of the circuit. They're swarming all over Steve Plater. Number 6, Sean Emmett. He won a race here at Brands with a slick rear tyre on his Ducati. Hayden is elbowing his way through into second place. They're not giving up. Look how close they are. It must be desperately tricky now.
This is incredibly difficult for these riders. They've started a race on a reasonably dry track. It's now raining. They do not have the tyres to cope with this level of water on the track. And we're going to see all sorts of action now as Sean Emmett there in the lead on bike number 6 probably has got wet tyres fitted, but he's a very, very good wet weather rider. But look, they're all over the place.
Neil Hodgson in second place, the number 4 Ducati. Oh, Neil almost threw it away. He's on the grass. Somebody's down. Left of the picture there, Sparks. Somebody went down. Neil Hodgson, his motocross experience kept him upright. Goodness knows how he kept it upright. He almost threw it away there. That would have been honours even, Roger.
Well, he did the same thing as Chris Walker on that patch of tarmac that's different. The back came round, he held it. Look at this for control. And it's Plater that's gone down in the background. I can tell you that Steve Plater, the early race leader, bike 22, has gone down. I saw that in the background. This is where Hodgson gets really, really almost crossed up, puts the foot down, has a dab, back on the track and joins the track with his teammate coming round. And there's Steve Plater being held away, and he looks like he's all right. And John Crawford there must have crashed as well, and both of them embrace each other, moved up from 600s into this Superbike class, and really they'll not know what it's all about. And look at Emmett. Emmett's indicating there that this race needs to be stopped. He's shaking his arm as Rutter now takes the lead.
There's 16 Shane Byrne, and it looks as though that's James Hayden's Ducati. Hayden and Byrne are both at red flag. The weather's gone from bad to worse. It really is very, very wet.
Well, the riders lined up as they finished. That's Sean Emmett on pole position there on bike number 6. Neil Hodgson shoots through on bike number 4 coming from the second row. So starting as they finished the race as it stopped. Now the conditions still just as bad as they were, although be it all not raining quite as hard, but a very, very wet track indeed. And all of these riders will now have the appropriate wet weather tyres.
Well, there is a lot of water still on the circuit, and grey skies, no sun coming through, and virtually no breeze means that it's not going to dry that quickly either. So I fully expect us to have wet conditions throughout this race, which bodes well for number 31, Michael Rutter, who leads at the moment. In second place as I speak, number 5, James Hayden, who was one of those fallers but has been allowed to make the restart. He was going really well. Neil Hodgson had the fright of his life in the first part when he took to the grass. His teammate number 7, Neil Mackenzie, there in 4th place, going very, very well indeed. Anthony Gobert, the number 95 Yamaha, who has stepped in to replace Steve Hislop. He had his debut ride at Mallory Park, did not like it at all, but he's going well here. He is leading teammate David Jeffries, but out in front, it's Michael Rutter, the Rain Man. Rutter, number 31, Hayden, number 5 in second. Hodgson, Reynolds coming strongly now. There's Colin Wright watching his man. They're all very tense. There's a lot hanging on this race. Now, who is in third? It's Gobert in third. It's Reynolds in fourth. Up to the lead. And Druids goes number 5, Hayden. So he is having a terrific race here. Hayden came here 4th place in the championship on 274 points, and he's in a 25-point position at the moment. But don't forget, we're talking about adjusted time.
Well, on adjusted time, we've yet to see where Hayden would be, and that's Paul Denning, the Suzuki team manager.
Look at Gobert, that distinctive helmet, and he has a little flashing red light on there. Is he going to pull the same move at Paddock Hill Bend? Up inside James Hayden. Yes, he goes into the lead here, and there are tail-enders ahead of them. It's going to be fun and games.
Well, the fastest man on the track at the moment is John Reynolds. Look at the back of your screen there. Reynolds has caught up with Michael Rutter, and there's Chris Walker looking very, very, very depressed indeed.
Well, it's close stuff.
Well, it's certainly close stuff, but I don't think James Hayden is doing what he's supposed to be doing here, because John Reynolds would ideally like to be passed, and this is an opportunity for him as they break into Druids, and John Reynolds leans on James Hayden there, but James Hayden's having none of it.
In fact, John Reynolds went wide there. Rutter took a big twitch. We're on the last lap now. Less than a mile for them to go. We're on the last lap, and Reynolds must get past Hayden. They're both skating about, the rear end letting loose here. Michael Rutter must know where he stands in the reckoning, and there it is. 0.9 of a second. Reynolds is behind Rutter. He must close him down. In other words, stretch away, but get past Hayden. That is the paramount job he has to do, and he's going round the outside, powering the Ducati. Is it going to be enough? No, Hayden is fighting back. The checkered flag's out. Michael Rutter on adjusted time gets the win. Neil Hodgson was actually 6th. 10 points go to Hodgson, so that really has helped Chris Walker. It could have been a total catastrophe. Rutter, Hayden, Reynolds, Gobert.
Had a bit of a problem with the front brake. It's been real hard, like no feeling to it. Just worried about losing the front. So easy, but you know, when Gobert cleared off, I thought, God, I'd love to try to stick in with him, but you know, he was going well.
Well, celebrations all round. James Hayden shaking the champagne, but probably just as well that Michael Rutter is in between those two. Just 10 points separates number 4 from bike number 2, number 4 in the lead as they come under starters' orders for round 22, and this race has been reduced to just 20 laps, and Walker gets the whole shot. And who's surprised by that? Certainly not me. Hodgson tucks in behind Walker. Plater goes all the way around the outside, and Steve Plater on the Kawasaki takes the lead.
Well, second lead for Steve Plater, albeit momentarily, because Chris Walker, number 2, has put the Suzuki back in front again. Number 31, Michael Rutter, winner of round 21, has gone with him. Plater's well placed in 3rd. Neil Hodgson sitting in a 13-point place at the moment in 4th place. So you know what the gap was coming into this race. Just 10-point deficit this man, number 2, had on that man, number 4. Hodgson up to 3rd. He's tucked the Ducati inside Steve Plater's Kawasaki. He's got to hang on to Chris Walker, and a rerun of the start, Roger.
This is on board with Walker looking backwards. You can see Mackenzie on bike 7, and that's how Chris Walker does it. Straight through into the lead. There's Reynolds on bike 3. You can see Shane Burns 16, Rutter number 31 as they're all coming into view in the wake of Chris Walker, and Walker goes past Plater on bike 22.
Reynolds saw his championship challenge come just a little touch closer because he clawed some points back on the... Oh, that's Hodgson! That is Neil Hodgson! Oh no! Neil Hodgson has gone down. He's done exactly what Chris Walker did in round 21, and he's so desperately trying to get that bike picked up. That was at the bottom of Graham Hill. Chris Walker is skating all over the tarmac, Roger. Sensational stuff.
Whoa! Sensational stuff indeed, because that's David Jeffries down.
Well, number 31 in 3rd place, Michael Rutter, still in a rostrum position, but it's up to 2nd, and he can smell a win here for number 3, John Reynolds. 20 points are his for the taking at the moment, and he will know that Neil Hodgson has gone out. This is the passing move. Looking forward from John Reynolds. Michael Rutter has gone out of picture on your left into Paddock Hill Bend. We are now well over 3/4 race distance. He's just got to hang on to the end. Reynolds still in 2nd. No sign, of course, of Neil Hodgson on that caption because we saw him crash out. He's in the pit garage, and he too now will be taking his turn watching the television monitor. He'll be doing the maths in his head, and he will know, assuming Chris Walker takes it all the way. That's Gobert! Anthony Gobert, winner of the second half of race 1, has dumped the Yamaha on the grass here. Now there's an air of resignation in the Ducati pit, but it's not over yet, as we've said so many times over the weeks and months of this thrilling season that we've had in the year 2000. It's going to be very interesting to see if we can actually get a better year next year. That remains to be seen. But in 3rd place, is he going to finish 3rd in the year 2000 championship? Number 3, John Reynolds. Michael Rutter, the Rain Man, going really well, but this is Reynolds.
Well, Reynolds there nearly being run off the track by a slower rider again costing him time. And poor old John sometimes seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's allowed Michael Rutter, the guy in the red bike there, to get ahead of him.
Chris Walker on his final lap won't be taking any chances now. This will give him a 21-point championship lead. A look over the shoulder from Chris Walker. It certainly turned his day round. He must have felt so dejected halfway through the afternoon. The crowd have stayed here. The conditions have been dreadful. The summer's really gone, but it's still Chris Walker on his way. The air horns are going. Exiting clearways now, coming down towards the line. Paul Denning and the Suzuki team are absolutely thrilled. It came right at the end of the day for Chris Walker. There's the win then. 20-lap race, as Roger Burnett said at the start, a shortened race distance and confirmation of Walker's win. Rutter, second place, so another rostrum for Michael Rutter. Reynolds, McKenzie, Shane Byrne and Steve Plater stayed on for sixth. Hayden in seventh. There you have it, 21 points the advantage Walker leads Hodgson by. John Reynolds has closed up marginally there, so still all to play for. Any one of those top three can win it. James Hayden has dropped away, he's on 303. There are three Hondas in the second half of the table, and Sean Emmett in 10th is the fastest.
Can't believe it. I needed a good result. I've been on the rostrum every time this year, and I was so nervous going into that race. It's horrible when you have a real bum first race, because you're desperate to keep on in the second race, and I knew the boys would be fast because they'd had a race in the wet, so there's a case of just get my head down, kept looking at my lap times, and I've been watching the first race and knew what sort of times they were doing, so I knew I was in the game. But no, mega result, brilliant.
This series just gets better and better, and the year 2000 British Superbike Championship will be a very hard act to follow. The racing all the way down the field has been excellent, but at the front in particular, it's been nothing less than hectic. That's given terrific entertainment value for both TV viewers and trackside spectators alike.
Qualifying took place on a completely wet track, and Walker and Hodgson dominated it, and you can see Walker there got pole position with two wet weather specialists, Michael Rutter and Anthony Gobert there on bike number 95, rounding out the front row. McKenzie on the second row and Reynolds on the second row also. Crawford there down on the third row from Steve Plater, and James Hayden unusually down on the third row, and he'll need to get a good start from there. Emmett's on the fourth.
Well, it's the 1.96 mile national circuit here at Donington Park. 22 laps, 43 miles the full race distance, and we have a real humdinger in prospect as the lights go to green. And away on the right-hand side of your picture, the customary rocket start from number 2 Chris Walker, the pole position man, but it's number 4 Neil Hodgson on the Ducati, arch rival, runner-up in the championship at the moment. He's 21 points adrift, and he knows he's got to win these two races if he's to stand any chance. Walker equally knows that a win in this one can put it out of sight. 25 points go to the winner, and Chris Walker's definitely got his eyes on the 25 points up for grabs. Sunshine here at Donington. It's been very, very difficult in qualifying, very wet. The qualifying times were 7 seconds off the dry lap speed, but now the race conditions are well nigh perfect. In third place, number 3 John Reynolds, as they crest the rise into Coppice. Walker leads, Hodgson in second, Reynolds really closing hard in third. In fourth place, it's John Reynolds' teammate James Hayden, number 5. A good start too by the number 22 Kawasaki Steve Plater. He's in fifth. They don't go left, they go right here into the right-left flick. There's Paul Denning, Chris Walker's Suzuki team boss. He knows, Roger, doesn't he, just what is at stake?
He certainly does. This is the point at which I think we're going to see most of the overtaking on. As I speak, Neil Hodgson looks at the inside of Chris Walker, and yes, he's gone through. So Neil Hodgson now has gone up into the lead, into the chicane, and I was just about to say that's where we're going to see it all. On board now with Neil Hodgson, you can see Chris Walker comes into view, and that means that Chris Walker is now behind Neil Hodgson, back with the leaders, and the safety car is out. So that means that the riders have to slow down. They can't exchange positions. That is that Chris Walker has to stay behind Neil Hodgson, John Reynolds has to stay behind Walker, and James Hayden has to stay behind Reynolds. They can close up, and that's the reason the safety car is out. It's Gramini and Dave Redgate. The pace car is in, so the race is back on.
Well, interesting times that allowed everybody to close up, and you saw Chris Walker weaving left and right there to keep the heat in his tyres down towards Redgate. Hodgson leads. Chris Walker, the stalker, not giving up though. Right in the wheel tracks of the number 4 Ducati. Hodgson, Walker, Reynolds, Hayden, Mackenzie doing wonderfully well in his last 2 races now. The champion retires after Donington Park, but he's going out in style. He's in 5th place. He's gone past Steve Plater. Any chance that John Reynolds has of winning the championship lies with him winning the race. He has to get past that number 2 Suzuki. Going for the lead again, Chris Walker. Chris Walker at Redgate, back in front then. He's on a 25-point position. If he can sustain this to the flag, the championship, the year 2000 British Superbike Championship will go to number 2, Chris Walker. He's ahead of Neil Hodgson. Neil Hodgson equally knows he needs to win both races. Reynolds now is looking menacing. So is James Hayden. He's far from giving up. 4th in the championship, James Hayden. Suspect he will not be riding in the same team as John Reynolds next year. There's been a little bit of controversy between them. Unfortunately, all that cement dust you saw at the exit of Coppice is way off the racing line. Somebody either blew the bike up or came down heavily there. It could have been the Gramini-Redgate incident. They're nearly 3 abreast. There's a tail ender ahead of them. Neil Hodgson is back in front again through right, left, Goddard's. The exit from Goddard's. If this had been the Grand Prix circuit, that would have been a very, very tight hairpin left-hander, but it's a right-left flick. This is now John Reynolds looking at the back end of the Suzuki of Chris Walker. John Reynolds prefers to stay a little bit wider, but he's tucking tight here. The Ducati has enormous drive, but that Suzuki is very, very quick. 2nd place for Chris Walker. 20 points will not be enough to put the championship out of sight. He needs the win, and that will make it impossible for Hodgson to come back. But Reynolds is up to 2nd, pushing Chris Walker down to a 16-point place with tail enders ahead of him. Hodgson got the back end on the curb, and that was a big scare for the 26-year-old from Burnley, now resident in the Isle of Man. That would have been a big scare there. He got it on the white curb, he grabbed a handful, put the power on, and Neil Hodgson is away with less than a lap to do, in sight now of the win here in round 23 at Donington Park. Roger, what a great race he's had.
Well, this is super.
Today's unnecessary movement of 4th rising championship. This racing every net, John is getting held up, Chris Walker getting held up. Meanwhile, things are playing to the hands of the bike number 4 front, and James Hayden
still down there in 4th spot.
Well, Chris Walker caught one of the back markers there, and he's been put really well off the pace now. Reynolds is established beautifully in 2nd place as they come up towards the last right-hander. Hard on the brakes here, Hodgson. A right-left flick. The crowd love him for this one, and he's going to pull a wheelie over the line, is he? No, a little bit cautious, but what a great... Oh, it is! There it is, the customary Neil Hodgson wheelie. Great result confirmed. Reynolds, Walker 3rd, Steve Plater and former champion Neil Mackenzie there in 6th place. A good round 23 for Neil Mackenzie.
I couldn't afford to let Chris beat me, obviously, and you know, it's a lot harder for Chris than it is for me, really. He's trying to protect his lead, and now I've nothing to lose, so enjoyed the ride. I felt dead relaxed on the bike. When I was following Chris, I didn't really have any problems, and managed to beat him at the end. I just had one little slide on the start of my last lap. Apart from that, it was all right.
Well, all 3 riders there squirting the champagne, but only 2 of them now in the championship. And unfortunately, John Reynolds can't win the championship with the last race remaining. A huge crowd here at Donington Park, though, bigger than the Grand Prix crowd. Round 24, the final round of this year 2000 British Superbike Series, and very tense moments indeed. You can see the amount of people down pit lane straining over the hospitality balconies to see what is going to happen in this final showdown. And Walker's bound to get the whole shot. They come away now off the grid, and let's have a look, and it is going to be Chris Walker on bike number 2, and who does that surprise? And certainly not me. And Hodgson follows in his footsteps, almost a replica carbon copy of the earlier race this afternoon.
With one exception, up into 4th place has gone number 31 Michael Rutter, who's known as a wet weather specialist and qualified here on the front row in very, very wet qualifying conditions, but he's not usually reckoned to be a quick starter in the drive. He's made that front row position start count. He's in 4th place. Chris Walker, though, just 1 bike length away, Roger.
Well, this
is on board with Neil Hodgson. Looking back, you can see Shane Byrne on bike 16, Neil Mackenzie on bike number 7, and what an emotional moment this is going to be for Neil Mackenzie, the final race of Neil Mackenzie's.
John Reynolds was champion. He's the third man in your picture back in 1992, and he would love to win it again, but he cannot this time. All he can do is spoil the party for the two men in front of him. Hodgson in front. Chris Walker may be a bit perturbed from a personal standpoint, but from a championship standpoint, that is far from a catastrophe for the Suzuki man. Having another look at Redgate, Walker in second, Hodgson leads. He knew coming here he'd have to win both races to win the title, and he's not disappointing.
Chris Walker will be very comfortable with that second spot. He'll be very pleased to follow Neil Hodgson around and let Hodgson set the pace. Whatever Hodgson does, as long as Walker's just behind him, then that's not a big problem. This is on board, and you'll see Chris Walker coming to view on the right hand side of the screen. There he is on bike 2, and that was the passing manoeuvre into the chicane. Hayden could get in front, or Hodgson could get in front, and Walker could be pushed back to 4th. That would be the minimum position that Chris Walker could finish in.
I was about to say, Roger, James Hayden is gathering ground, hand over fist as up into second place. Now goes John Reynolds. Chris Walker down in 3rd. Still not a major problem for him, but Hayden is really closing. Look at the 4th man in your picture there, number 5, James Hayden. Chris Walker in 3rd place, a 16-point position here. He leads the championship by 12. That'll give him 28 points. Even if Hodgson wins, the victory goes to Walker by 3 points. 3rd place will do, Chris. Neil Hodgson easing away. 3 machine lengths now, the gap, and John Reynolds still there in second. He's on a 20-point place. There's Les, that's Chris Hall. Anxious times for everybody here. Paul Denning on the right, the Suzuki boss. Great consternation on his face. Chris Walker, though, thinks that maybe a second place is on the cards. He's having a good look at the inside of John Reynolds, and he grabs it. Through goes Chris Walker, up to second, putting yet another cushion in between himself and James Hayden, who has been advancing, and really coming close. James Hayden in 4th place, number 5, on the back now of his teammate in the Team Revi Racing Ducati squad. This is the move that Walker made on Reynolds.
Well, that was down at the old hairpin. That was 90 miles an hour, and what a clean move it was. Great to see Chris riding with so much confidence in this, the last race of the championship. He doesn't need to be doing moves like that, I have to say that, because we know that 4th place is good enough, but Chris Walker, by his very nature, and look how close he's now getting to Hodgson. He's having a go, and he's through. He's now taken the lead. He wasn't content with 4th place. He wasn't content with 2nd place, so he's in the lead, and that's the way Chris Walker knows to fight and to try and win this championship.
Well, we all know it's the only way Chris Walker knows how to ride, and what a terrific campaigner he's been through the year 2K. 9 wins for Walker, 7 wins for Hodgson. That's how close they've been, and Hodgson has taken the lead again, coming up to his favourite overtaking place into the right hand. And look at Reynolds. Reynolds round the outside. Reynolds in second. Walker in the winking of an eye. Chris Walker goes from 1st to 3rd, but he's making another play here again on John Reynolds, who indeed is looking to win the race. John Reynolds, number 3, is going for the lead here, and James Hayden in 4th place, number 5, is really closing on Chris Walker. Hodgson's made the break though. 11 laps completed. Neil Hodgson is now 3 bike lengths clear. This is absolutely breathless stuff. It's no less than I would have expected the way this season has shaped up.
Well, this is on board with Neil Hodgson. You can see that he came down the outside of the track as Chris Walker was trying to run a defensive line in the middle of the road, and look at Reynolds. Reynolds came right round the outside. Now it's back at the front, and a slight gap has opened up, and it's good that they're actually playing a bit of cat and mouse, and Hayden's coming up the inside of Walker, so Hayden's now through to take 3rd place. So Chris Walker in the lowest position he could possibly finishing if things stay the same. And what I was going to say was it's good that they're playing cat and mouse, because that's allowing them all to bunch up and swap places quite quickly, and Walker's swapped a place again because Walker's now back up to 3rd.
I tell you what else it's allowed. Neil Mackenzie, who's, oh look at Hayden at Craner Curves, back underneath Chris Walker. This is like round 1 in the championship, never mind the final race in the series. James Hayden with absolutely nothing to lose. The number 5 Ducati in 3rd place has got everything to gain. This is the time of the year when riders are talking to teams and sponsors about the next season, never mind this season. Cool it, Chris, cool it, don't throw it away. He's looking over his shoulder. Surely he's not got a mechanical problem. Maybe he's wondering where Neil Mackenzie is.
Well, I've got got to say, it looks like he's got a problem, Barry. There has to be something wrong. He's not come into the picture yet. He's cruising down Craner Curves. This is drama indeed. He went wide into the chicane. It looked like he was making mistakes, probably through loss of concentration. But look at the team.
Well, they know there's a problem there. That's Colin Wright, impassive as usual. The Suzuki team know there is a problem with Chris, but he's still going. Lap 17, 22 laps the race distance. Oh no! The Suzuki has let go! The Suzuki has blown. Chris Walker can never bring that home. There will be an oil flag up. The team on the wall, the Suzuki team, cannot believe it. He must retire that bike, and his championship hopes, his championship dream, everything he's worked for this year, and indeed 3 years previously, have literally gone up in smoke.
That's going to be a huge, huge, huge disappointment for Chris Walker and his friends. Look at him there. The poor guy's in tears.
But on the final lap, number 5, James Hayden, with Neil Hodgson in second place, champion designate Neil Hodgson, the number 4 Ducati, who already has his plans sewn up for next year. He is moving. There's Darrell Healy, team owner, grinning from ear to ear. He's a man who really shows emotion. And this is it. Just hold it all together, Neil, and bring it home. The checkered flag is in sight for Neil Hodgson. The year 2000 British Superbike champion is in runner-up spot, and that puts it 8 points out of reach of poor Chris Walker. What a drama-packed day here at Donington Park it's been. And Colin Wright, that's his second consecutive British Superbike title as team boss. And Neil Hodgson now knows for sure that he's won the title because he will have got the message that Chris Walker is out. Confirmation of that result. Hodgson second, Hayden got the win, Reynolds, Mackenzie a brilliant fourth. What a way for him to go out. Anthony Gobert, our visiting Australian, was in 6th place. Final standings, 8 points the gap. Hodgson lifted the title by. Walker, 4 years, runner-up. Reynolds third again. Both James Hayden and Neil Mackenzie improved on their result of last year, and there are some new young names there we'll be seeing next year, I'm sure.
Neil, British champion, how does it feel, mate?
Definitely not sunk in. I don't know. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I saw the red spotted board with a number 2 on it, and I knew what that meant. And then my concentration just went totally. I was just in another world. It was very, very strange.
A word for Chris. A word for Chris. He broke down.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's been an incredible year, and it's a shame it had to end that way, but that is racing. You know, you have your ups and downs, and Brands Hatch was a disaster for me, and Chris has rode awesome all the year, and you know, it's a strange. It's really strange. I do deserve it, but no one wants to see it go out that way.
They say football is a cruel sport, but it doesn't come much tougher than that. It's a 4th runner-up spot for Suzuki's Chris Walker. He's devastated. But Team GSE Ducati have got their 2nd consecutive championship. This time it's with the new champion, Neil Hodgson, and they're off to World Superbike together next year. But from the British Superbike Championship, we've had a great time, and from here at Donington Park, we hope you've enjoyed the season's coverage. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Break, blip, blip, blip with the right hand. Look, and off he goes.
Oh, Chris Walker! Oh, when he got the power on in a big way! Round 3 goes to number 3, John Reynolds. Hodgson's hard on the outside. Oh, it's another contact! Chris Walker holding the title. Hodgson's down, unbelievably. He's on the gravel as he's down. He's on the inside. The crowd are on their feet.
But look at the flames again.
Chris Walker's down. Chris Walker, the championship leader, is down and out. That's Hodgson. That is Neil Hodgson. Oh no.